That means we should be coming on the air any minute now. Let's see. Okay. Oh, what? This hangout on air is like. Sorry, guys. I'm new at this. I'm not usually the person starting it. In fact, if you're a Two Guys One Sport regular, welcome. The role of Brother Chris, since he's off doing whatever the hell he's doing, is going to be played by me, Brother Duke. So, hi, everybody.
Hi, Duke. How's the mustache?
See y'all.
How's the mustache?
We are live for episode 26 of Two Guys One Sport. Fun little discussion here. When I offered to take over for Brother Chris this week, he said, "Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, we're going to be between pay-per-views. It's not like there's going to be anything big happening." And then, of course, the news exploded. So what do we know?
So we're going to talk news. It's going to be good.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about Raw. We're going to be talking about Triplemania. We're going to have a little Battle of Los Angeles talk. And by the way, breaking news just a couple hours ago involving WWE. That is going to be a big deal. I don't know if anyone saw it, but JBL turned in his resignation as SmackDown announcer.
I did. I just saw it before I jumped on. So, yeah. We'll see what happens. See who's replacing him. We'll talk about it. We have words to talk about.
Oh, my gosh. Do we have so many words to talk about? But there are traditions that must be upheld even in podcasting, and one of those traditions is the match of the week. This is 90s week here on Two Guys One Sport. So both of our matches are from that glorious, wonderful decade of the 1990s, as I take care of taking the camera off for the time being, maybe. Now, Brother George, I know your match is a lot more mainstream than mine. You've made that point several times, so we're going to let you start.
My match of the week, it doesn't get much more mainstream than this. You ready, Brother Chris? Or, excuse me, wow. Brother Duke, wow. See what happens?
Oh,
muscle
come
memory.
on.
Muscle memory will kill you. Damn you, muscle memory.
So, yeah, go for it.
Exactly. My match is the main event of WrestleMania 12. The Iron Man match. The Iron Man match between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. And let me tell you something, my friend.
You weren't going to tell me ahead of time what it was, but it's something that I've seen. This is something I watched all the time on summer vacation from college. I love it. Go.
Let me tell you something, Brother Chris. Not a fan of this. Not a fan of this match. You know why?
Why is that?
It's a lot of wrestling for the sake of wrestling. First of all, let's talk about how Bret Hart got screwed.
Whoa. Okay. First off, that is probably the biggest misconception of this.
No. The champion's advantage. He got what happens in a time limit? What happens in a time limit draw in a champion match? The champion retains. We saw this during the awesome Nick Bockwinkel Kurt Hennig match, right?
And if you remember when the match was made by General Manager Roddy Piper, he said and repeated, "There must be a winner."
There was a winner. Bret Hart retained. He should have had the belt.
Was no winner. He finished 0-0.
But Bret Hart. You know what?
That's not how that works.
That's exactly how that works. Bret Hart was the champion. He should have had the champion's advantage. But that wasn't even the biggest problem with this match. You know what the biggest problem with this match was? I think somewhere in an alternate universe, they're still working the arm. They worked the arm for 900 million days. I think, like I said, somewhere there's arm bar being worked. You know what the problem with working the arm is? The finish was 2 kicks to the head. All that arm working was just working the arm, just for the sake of working the arm. It's two guys who should have had who had a great 30-minute match in them, who tried to stretch it out and make it a 60-minute match.
Yeah, that's true. And
a lot of fun for 12-year-old me when I went to my buddy Brian's house to watch. Not gonna lie.
Very fun. When I saw it too,
35-minute mark. You're starting to be like, wow, there's 25 more minutes of this, and these guys are out of ideas. But I will say this: props to Shawn Michaels for taking a bump on the turnbuckle that looked just hellacious. You remember that? He did that little flip, and then he flew out of the ring, and he landed face first on the floor.
Yeah, I think it was RSPW dubbed it the world-famous holy shit bump.
Yeah. Props to Shawn. You forget how, as much of a scumbag drug addict he was in real life, 90s Shawn Michaels was really good at the whole wrestling gimmick.
Yes, he was.
Bit of a career. He made a career of it.
And
good match.
There were certain moments early in the match that I thought worked really well. If you remember, about 15 minutes in, Shawn throws Bret and Shawn are on the floor. Sean tries to throw Brett into the railing, but he throws him into the timekeeper area instead.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean then winds up the super kick. Brett ducks, and my God, I think the timekeeper's head is still in orbit.
It is. Yes, that was pretty great. I'll say that. Don't get me wrong. This is not a bad match. This. I would even go as far as say this is a good match. I just don't think it is a great match. And given that you have two of the best in-ring guys ever at their peak of their powers, I expect better than good match. If this was a half-an-hour Iron Man match, like the Sasha Bailey one was, this could have been an all-time great match.
Yeah, I think that's part of it is that in modern wrestling, 60 minutes just seems a little too long. 30 minutes, I think, is the new platonic ideal.
I didn't like Okada Omega when they went 60 minutes for the draw. I talked about last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, how that their best match so far this year was the 30-minute one because it forced them to pick up the pace. I think same concept. I think the same concept applies here. You better be like 2005 Bryan Danielson, and even some of his 60-minute matches weren't even that great.
Or you better be like there was Chris Hero and CM Punk went 60 minutes in IWA Mid-South.
Oh yeah, but I mean even those matches, even like the Punk Joe matches from like Ring of Honor and like 04, 05, even those drag a little bit. Like anything above 30 minutes, you better be telling the Ulysses of stories here or something.
Right, and I think part of the problem is that there's it's not just that. I understand what's going on here, that 60 minutes was always the gold standard going back to the territory days. The difference is that in the territory days, there was, I guess the right word is a lot more patience from the audience.
Yes.
In that you could work a headlock for 10, 15 minutes. I mean, Brett and Sean tried that in this match. They tried to sort of build slowly to a finish. The problem is that they just, I don't know. I mean, everything about it said they were doing things the way they would have been done, but it just didn't click.
It never did. And I, off the top of my head, other than a tag match, I can't think of a great match these two had together. A great match.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, I'm sure there's one or two. I can't think of one. Did they have a great match together?
Well, they had the zeroth ladder match. I remember that. I remember that being all right. But the difference is that back then,
I remember there being a Rockers vs. Hart Foundation from like '91 that was awesome.
Oh yes. Oh,
maybe SummerSlam '91.
I think it was 1990 because I remember the punchline being that Demolition is out scouting them, and at the end they say the heck with it and beat up both teams.
Yeah.
By the way, for old school wrestling fans, Demolition versus Hart Foundation versus Rockers in a TLC match is the dream match we never got.
Truth. Throw the Minnesota Wrecking Crew and call it a day. If you want
yes.
If you want to go really old school.
I mean, the Brainbusters were around in WWF at that time. Pick them instead, you know.
One of the joys of the network. One of the joys of the network is going back and watching random like old school like primetime wrestling.
Yes.
You see the wackiness, but the WWF undercard, not terrible wrestling, especially in the tag team scene. I mean, the main event scene was a nightmare. Don't get me wrong, but the tag team, an undercard, and intercontinental scene, some of those matches really still hold up. Like that Brett Perfect match would be a good match anywhere in any federation in the company. 2017.
Exactly, and on Blog of Doom, they're doing recaps of 1990 WWF, just sort of going through the timeline. They just talked about the Intercontinental title tournament, and that reminds me that there's a rematch. Saturday Night's main event's in like May of 1990.
Okay.
Mr. Perfect's first title defense is a rematch of the final against Tito Santana, and that match was amazing.
You know, you talk about 90s wrestling. The main event of SummerSlam 1990 is Warrior versus Rick Rude. And if you don't think Rick Rude is a great professional wrestler after watching him carry Warrior to a match, because poor Rick Rude bumps like a mofo. It was in the old school blue cage.
Yes.
And and Bobby Heenan even gets in on the action, and they break out all the smoke and they use all the mirrors to get Warrior to be passable. And by God, they do a good job.
Yeah, you say Warrior passable, but you have to remember if Warrior was given enough time to prepare for the match and the right opponent who would help him get the match together. But remember, all three matches against Roode are really good. The Hogan match is legendary.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's the Hogan match.
There's the Savage match. The Randy Savage Ultimate Warrior match, I'm going to tell you right now, is the match of the decade.
Especially considering how limited Warrior is. When people talk about Randy Savage as being an all-time great in-ring wrestler, that's Exhibit A. Because Randy Savage, it's somehow possible to me that Randy Savage is an underrated historical wrestler.
Oh my God!
I don't want to. He's kind of been lost in the shuffle. I mean, he is a pantheon level, especially in the past 30 years. But
it's something like Randy Savage came along today.
He's somehow been lost in the shuffle. But you look at that match and you say, my God, this guy is unbelievable.
Oh yeah,
Savage with one arm in like 1997 was still getting it done.
Definitely, Randy Savage and DDP, the street fights they had.
Yeah.
Wow.
When Savage had one arm because he ripped his bicep up to bits, and the match was still good.
Yeah.
And Diamond Dallas Page was never a ring general on his best day. But yeah, no, Savage match next week. I don't know. Maybe you got a good one for me to do next week?
You know what? We can probably discuss. Let me think here.
Think about it. Keep it in the back of your head. Keep it in the back of your head. Give me your match, and then we'll talk some Over Pro.
Yeah. My match of the week is a lot less mainstream. I showed it to you, Brother George. Did you happen to watch it along the way?
I did not. No, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I chose my match because I like matches where you can learn from them. And this match is something where I think you can learn. It is from way back in WCW Thunder, February 1998. It's a match between Raven and Marty Jannetty. Now, what you need to know about this is, first off, unlike many things in WCW, there's actually a bit of a story behind this one. Raven at the time was feuding with Chris Benoit, and the night after Sold Out, when Benoit and Raven had that amazing match that they had, Benoit has a showcase match against Jannetty, who at this point is just a lower card who floats in and out, because WCW.
Okay.
So they had their match. Raven's Flock attacks Benoit after the match, and Jannetty, being an old school babyface, makes the save. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I know that the overall plan was to bring DDP into this and let all these guys fight for the U.S. title. Can you imagine what a six-man tag of DDP, Benoit, and Jannetty against Raven, Saturn, and Kidman in 1998 would have been like?
I would be here for that. That would be good for me.
So what we have here is, this is a match from Thunder. It is a no disqualification match because all matches with Raven were no disqualification matches. That was part of his gimmick. That when he was hired, he managed to stick a rider in his contract that he could name the stipulation for every single match he was in, and most of the time it was no DQ. I've just put the link, by the way, to the match in the chat room for those who are wondering. And after we broadcast this and publish it and all that and archive it, I'll put the link in the YouTube comments as well.
This is why I keep you around for stuff like this.
Great. Now, when I say this is a match you can learn from, Marty Jannetty is one of the best baby faces of the 90s in terms of working underneath and getting the comebacks right, and popping a crowd with these moves that at the time were high profile. Raven is one of the best heels of the 90s. He knew how to pace a match. He knew how to work the crowd. And, of course, the no DQ gimmick meant that, people would see him do things that were considered cheating, and they were upset that his contract allowed him to get away with it. And this match, which is in Beaumont, Texas, by the way, and pause here, Beaumont, a suburb of Houston, all those in southeastern Texas, our prayers and love are with you. Stay strong, bros.
Good people down there, man. We wish you nothing but the best.
Absolutely. In this match, Jannetty at this point knows what's happening. He attacks Raven in the aisle. And there's one sequence that's just hilarious. He super kicks Lodi, who has jumped the railing to try and help out. Turns around, super kicks Raven. Lodi is staggering, still holds up his sign because he's Lodi. And Jannetty super kicks him again. And by the way, at this point, Lodi is flat out and does not move for the rest of the match.
That's awesome. That makes me happy.
He is dead in the aisle. And in fact, about near the end of the match, as the camera pans over, Tony Schiavone says, "Is he still out?" So that's sort of getting over Jannetty's got explosive offense. Raven uses a clothesline to turn the tide because Marty Jannetty selling a clothesline should be an Olympic sport.
Yes.
Raven uses a chair pretty well. He goes for a Vader bomb with the assistance of the chair. That's when Jannetty holds the chair up to turn the tide. Jannetty is still, a little tired. Has to sort of make desperation moves to gain the offensive advantage. The match in and of itself is only about 5.5, 6 minutes, which is fine. It's a TV match. You don't have to go longer than that. But it is really fun, and you can learn how to be a babyface and how to be a heel from watching these two veterans go at it. So I recommend, once the podcast is over, don't leave us, guys. I recommend.
Yeah, please stick around. We love you guys.
Yeah, please stay. I recommend entering that URL in and watching the match for yourself and seeing two of the old school veterans going at it.
One of my favorite matches of the 90s, we were talking about it, is when Goldberg beat Raven for the U.S. title on an episode of Nitro, and Raven tries to run away, and the Plants throw him back in the ring.
Yes.
And Goldberg goes through the entire flock and wins. It's like 4 minutes long. It is a great match.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Raven plays the crowd perfectly. Like you talk about a guy who gets his gimmick. Raven gets his gimmick. And
Absolutely.
The fact that we have Bray Wyatt being Hillbilly Raven makes me so sad.
Bray Wyatt I've talked about my theory on what's going on with Bray Wyatt there, and that is that basically he hit too close to home for Vince. The idea is Bray Wyatt, when he started, was supposed to be the scarecrow to John Cena's Batman.
Yes, he wasn't a witch doctor. He was just the cult leader who got by with the power of his spoken word and his natural charisma.
Right, but he also could read people and figure out what it is. He could do cold reading, basically, is what I'm saying. He could figure out what it is that bothered them, and he would just pick at it and pick at it. You saw it with Daniel Bryan, where Daniel Bryan's biggest fear was that he would never, ever be given the chance that he thought he deserved. And so Bray Wyatt knew how to get in there and distract him and do just enough to, get Daniel Bryan off course. And and then with John Cena, of course, Cena's biggest fear is that he is not going to be remembered. That is, all of his accomplishments are going to be for naught. And they built an entire feud around what would Cena's legacy be, and would Bray Wyatt find a way to tarnish it? But what really was the turning point for me was the build-up to the Undertaker match at WrestleMania 31. And my theory is Bray Wyatt spent the time saying the Undertaker has been around for so long that the spirit is willing but the flesh is weak, and it is my turn to strike fear into people. And Vince McMahon heard that speech and said, wait a minute, you mean the guy I created is now old and can't... No, you can't replace him. He's my creation. And I think that's when Bray really started getting derailed.
Yeah, that's about what it was. No, you're right. Right around that time. The match being shit didn't help. I know Bray had a bad ankle or a bad knee or something going into it, so that just is just horrible timing on Bray's part. But yeah, that's right around the time he stopped being Bray Wyatt cult leader and started being Bray Wyatt hillbilly witch doctor.
Exactly.
It doesn't suit him. It doesn't suit. I miss the NXT Bray Wyatt, where it was just him using the spoken word and talking about being from Lafayette, Louisiana, and his daddy's shrimp boat and setting it on fire and reading the Bible. And you remember those promos down at NXT?
Yeah, I do.
That's the Bray Wyatt that has agency. The Bray Wyatt talking about being the eater of worlds and the House of Horrors and all the other crap. That's the Bray Wyatt that just go away. Just go away. Get out of my life, dude. You're doing nothing for me.
And the thing is, if you want it to be supernatural with Bray Wyatt, there's actually a hook for it, which is one of the early tweets and responses he got. Somebody asked him, "Wait, what happened to the army tank with the Ferrari engine?" And I still remember Bray Wyatt's response. He needed me. I needed a vessel.
Yeah, exactly.
If you wanted to play up Bray Wyatt as being a demon that possesses people, I would be down with that.
Yes. Instead, you have this guy who just runs his mouth and cuts promos that don't make any sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the plot got lost, but that's kind of how it is.
Probably right around WrestleMania 31 is when the plot got lost. You're 100% correct.
So, look, there you go. If you want to see Bray Wyatt done better, go watch a Raven match.
Yep, that's it. Nova Pro. You saw
Nova Pro! All right. First off, the big news is they set an attendance record for this one, a turn-away crowd of 335 people.
So props to Nova Pro for not overselling a building, which is something that Evolve and Progress couldn't do.
Yes. Yeah, they were on Twitter beforehand and said, we are not going to oversell the building. We are going to abide by the rules. Of course, they're at the fire department's the fire department's assembly hall. I don't think they could get away with it.
Exactly. Props to them. That was good stuff.
Oh, yes. And, of course, the first thing that happens is when you have a big show like this and a big crowd like this, something's going to go wrong. And what went wrong in this point is that the video recording equipment got stuck in traffic.
Oh, that legendary Northern Virginia traffic.
You laugh, but
I don't laugh. I laugh
up there with LA as far as silly, stupid traffic.
Yeah, it's not good up there. Not good up there at all.
Yeah, but fortunately, after sending out Chuck Taylor, and I'll explain. I have to explain the Chuck Taylor appearance because there's a lot more going on there in case you don't follow Chikara. They sent him out to entertain the crowd for a few minutes, and then they came across something. They took somebody's cell phone camera and they hooked it up to Periscope, and Periscope now has the first few matches of this show on it. You can find it. You can watch the matches, the first few matches I'm going to talk about if you want, on your own. So
good stuff.
Oh yeah. So here we are, Facebook Live, Periscope, Brad Stutz hyping up the crowd. And the first person out of the curtain is Bo Crockett, who, as you recall, used to be part of Cutie and the Beast, turned on Isaiah, became an auxiliary member of the Carnies. I don't know if he's tagged them outside of Nova Pro. Really doesn't matter. The point is that he is cheating, betraying, backstabbing scumbag at this point.
Yes, the rotten cur.
Uh-huh. And this is the feud, he's in the feud with Isaiah that got you totally hooked on Nova Pro, as you recall from the last show.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he comes out first, and by the way, while I'm here, I know it's going to sound like shooting my own horn because I'm part of it, but the crowds at Nova Pro are amazing. I mentioned in the past that, you have people who actually play along with some of the gimmicks.
Yeah, you were telling me people dress up and show up as the 1%ers and stuff, right?
Right, and we have the Snack Society, which is a great group of guys. Will Mahoney, Brandon Reich. They review snack food on YouTube. They show up to all these matches and they bring deli subs for a couple of the wrestlers. It's really nice. But anyway, back to Bo Crockett here. The reason I bring this up is he gets in the mic and says, "I was just part of the main event in one of the greatest tag teams of all time, and here I am, first guy out of the curtain on the pre-show."
Hey, don't hate curtain jerkers.
I know. I'm telling you what he says, though. And at this point, the crowd starts the best timed "You deserve it" chant I have heard in a long time.
Nice. That sounds awesome.
So he throws out an open challenge. We've been talking about it on Facebook all the time. Nobody responded on Facebook, but his opponent was the juggernaut DeJuan O'Neill, who I believe is based up in New England. So they have their match. It's a pretty quick match, mostly to establish that Bo Crockett is in the building and is a good wrestler. He wins with this inverted figure four. He calls it the alternate ending. I'm not sure if you've seen it before. Basically, he's winding up for the figure four, and then he rolls so that his opponent is on his stomach with the legs.
Okay, weird.
That's a pretty good move, actually.
I like it.
It looks pretty cool. So yeah, he wins with that, and we're off and running. The next match is a comedy match. It is the Mercenary Graham Bell and Jackson Stone against Juke Joint Lucas Calhoun and the Mecha Mercenary. Now, here's what you need to know about this. Lucas Calhoun is an Elvis impersonator gimmick, and he goes all out. He is completely into it. And Mecha Mercenary is part of the Sandwich Squad. They're the guys that the Snack Society provide the deli subs to after every match.
Okay.
Mecha Mercenary is about 440 pounds. according to the intros. This becomes
My
important
kind of guy.
later. So, before the match, Jackson Stone tries the old Rick Rude thing, I want silence while I remove my jacket thing.
Nice. Here for that. Then
Yes.
Rick Rude was awesome.
Oh my gosh, yes.
We talked about it earlier. Rick Rude kicked ass. I think I may do the Savage Rick Rude match for next week's match of the week, just because that match makes me so happy to watch.
All right, sounds good. So he, of course, says, I want everyone to be quiet while I take my jacket off, and this being wrestling, that has the opposite effect. And then we start a leave it on chant. Eventually says, nah, the hell with it, and just pulls his jacket off. Let's see, early on in the match, Calhoun does his karate because he's an Elvis guy. Gets a good flurry. Graham Bell, as part of his gimmick, brings something resembling a bazooka to the ring. And at this point, he gets upset. He pulls the bazooka out and he aims it at the other team's corner. Everybody in the ring is freaking out. Everybody in the crowd is playing along, freaking out. And he forgot to load the bazooka. So he yells, "Fire in the hole!" And then you hear click, 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 click. And he looks down the barrel of the bazooka and is like, oh man, I knew I forgot something. Like I said, total comedy match at this point. Lucas Calhoun does a 1-inch punch as his offense. Bell just sort of stares at him, doesn't sell it, goes over to the corner, tags in Jackson Stone, turns around, and falls flat. Does a flare flop. So it's almost like the old 5-finger death punch, and then it takes him about a minute to.
Nice. I like that. This comedy match sounds fun. Who doesn't like a comedy match every now and again?
I know. Then the faces go for the Sandwich Squad's finisher, and this is where I say remember the wait, because Mecha Mercenary usually tags with Aaron Banks, who's a really good, he's a wrestler I think has a future in the bigger leagues. They're both 400 pounds, and their finisher is the old stand in opposite corners with the poor guy in the middle and run and squash him between your weight.
Okay.
So Mecha and Lucas Calhoun try that, but Lucas is an average-sized guy. So instead, Mecha Mercenary just winds up knocking everybody over like dominoes.
Oh, nice callback.
Yes. They win the match. They win the match soon after because Stone runs in. He gets hit with the Black Hole Slam, or as they call it, the Black Forest Slam, because sandwich stuff.
Smart.
They get their sandwiches from the Snack Society outside, and you hear Mecha saying, "They remembered the mayo." Just a lot of fun. Then we had, as you put it the last time I was here, the 6-man match with a lot of knives. AC Hawks is a regular now on the show. He, my understanding is he's a Storm Academy graduate.
Okay.
Isaiah Frazier is another regular. He's a guy who, is part of the Money Green stable. Sage Phillips is an Indiana-based wrestler who, he does a good Spike Dudley on the way to the ring. And he brought a few of his friends over, so we threw them all together in a 6-man. The others were Donovan Danhausen, Ace Perry, and Dale Patricks, who won some indie tournament. I forget which one. Anyway, point is, this match is just full energy. It's only about 6 minutes long, and everybody's just moving the whole time. Everybody hits their knives to the outside, including Hawks, who tries a moonsault onto the floor, and unfortunately, he hits the apron on the way down, and he broke a bone in his pinky finger. He did not stick around for the rest of the show. He went to the hospital to have it held together. I talked to him on Twitter. He's hoping to be there for the next show, if not as a wrestler, at least to take in the atmosphere. So
get well soon, big guy.
Yeah, no kidding. Phillips wins this with a double underhook brainbuster. I love me some sprints. So.
Oh, me too. Yeah, absolutely.
At this point, something really special happened, which is we had a VIP. We have a few, well-known indie wrestling fans who attend our shows. Lady J is always there. And this time, Papa Hales was there with his friend Making Towns guy. And I bring this up because this was Papa Hales' birthday weekend.
Okay.
And Brian Hughes, the ring announcer, points him out and announces that it's his birthday this weekend. And about 10 guys from the locker room all come out and go to where he is. And Lucas Calhoun leads us all in singing "Happy Birthday," and Faye Jackson and Innocent Isaiah give him a bit of a joking lap dance, and
that makes me happy. I've had the privilege, the pleasure of talking to Papa Hales, and he is.
If you go anywhere in the South, he is probably going to be there. He loves wrestling. He is a big advocate, especially for women's wrestling. And I'll tell you right now, he and his friend Making Towns guy are going to be holding the Making Towns Classic in, they believe, May in Tennessee. It's going to be basically a women's indie wrestling showcase, and I hope to learn more about it. We're trying to, they're getting the card set together. I'm going to keep Rev informed of it because this is something I really hope takes off.
He is a gem of a person in real life. It's not a gimmick for him, the Twitter stuff. He's come to AEW. He was in AEW for Jack Swagger's match in, I want to say, late April, early May for that card that I went to, and he is just a gracious and magnanimous individual, and I wish him and his family nothing but the best. They're good people.
Yes, if you ever meet Papa Hales,
not a gimmick. It's not a gimmick with him.
It's not. Follow him on Twitter at MikeHales9. He is a great person, and he is a great advocate for wrestling. We need more fans like him.
Yes, we'll get there.
Oh yeah. So at this point, the VR equipment finally arrived, so we took about a 10-minute break to set it up. And so, unfortunately, the match I've just described, you have to watch on Periscope. They won't be available on the DVD, which I know that you're going to pre-order because you are a Keith Lee.
Of course. I'm here for Keith Lee, Angelus Lynn.
Yes.
Duke, are you with us?
Against Alley Cat, who is quickly becoming one of my favorite indie wrestlers. Because she is 100% gimmick. And I've told her, I mean this in the nicest way, I know she's a decent wrestler. I know that, she can put a match together, but her calling card is her gimmick, and it is great. She is a Catwoman. No, not a Catgirl like Aaliyah is. She plays a full-on, the closest thing we get to a Dr. Moreau hybrid.
Okay.
She will come to the ring on all fours. She'll occasionally lick her wrist. During the match, all of her moves have cat-themed names. She uses, she'll claw and scratch at the opponent's chest as part of her offense, kissing while she does. I saw one spot in an earlier match where she climbed the top turnbuckle, then remembered her cat person and got stuck. There's like, help, can someone get me down from here? Just neat touches like that shows, indie wrestling does not have to be dead serious like Ring of Honor or WWE. There's a place for really just fun, out there gimmicks that people can try and just connect with the crowd. That's what it's all about. And she connects with the crowd. There were kids who just love her, even though she plays a heel.
If you have that way to connect to the crowd, then it's all you need. It's all you need. No matter how you get there, however you get there, it's pretty great.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You with me?
I am now. Yeah, your mic just sort of died off on that sense. I heard maybe none of it.
It wasn't really that interesting, anyways. Okay. I'm just saying, like, if you are a gimmick, however you connect to the crowd, it doesn't matter if you do it with your promos. It doesn't matter if you do it with your in-ring ability. It doesn't matter if you do it with your gimmick. However you do it, just do it, as long as you get there.
Yes, the most important thing in wrestling is to get the crowd into you. And that kind of has gotten lost in the whole, Women's Revolution and Ring of Honor stuff that goes on. But no, you need to get the crowd to connect to you, and that's what's going to change everything. So the finish of this match played into the whole Alley Cat gimmick thing. She hit the ripcord headbutt, which is a great finisher, by the way. It's like Chris Hero's ripcord elbow, except she, headbutts you. Well, it's not a Shibata headbutt. It's clearly to the shoulder, but you get the idea.
Works for me.
Gets a 2 count, freaks out, starts screaming at the referee. The referee, in a panic, pulls out a laser pointer and starts pointing it at the mat. Allie sees it and starts just sort of staring at it, transfixed, because, again, cat. Nice. And Brittany... Yes, and Brittany rolls her up for the pin.
That's not very nice of the referee, though.
Yeah, we gave the referee some flack for that one.
You should. He's supposed to be impartial, like Baron Corbin.
Exactly. Anyway, immediately after this match, Angela Lane comes out. And
my girl, yes. This is what I've been waiting for.
She is going to break out. I hope this match gets her some bigger opportunities, and in fact, it gets her at least one at the next show, which I'll talk about when I do the preview for the next show. She tells Blake, "You have 3 seconds to get out of this ring." Blake doesn't move, so Angela Lane, of course, chucks her out of the ring. Points for effort, that sort of thing.
Sure.
Lane recaps the history of it, and here's the background of Angela Lane and Nova Pro. She was supposed to be in a match in October of 2016. Her opponent withdrew. The match was canceled. It happens. From there, she has spent all of 2017 furious that she was given a bait and switch from the promoters, and has promised to destroy all of the people that they like, and, as she puts it, burn the company to the ground. In July, the show before this, she got very personal with the promoter, insulted his ability as a father, and the promoter, just recently became a father. The promoter, Mikey King, comes out, tells her to leave the ring. We'll discuss this in the back. Lane chases after him and throws a fireball in Mikey King's face. You may have seen this photograph by now. I've seen it in like a dozen different Twitter feeds. So
nice.
So for this show, she recaps that, then points to Papa Hales and says, "I know that you love women's wrestling. I know that you've been advocating for me, but you're here and you're giving money to Mikey King. You can't be on my side and his side. I'm disowning you. I'm disowning your fanhood."
That's some good heel work right there.
Yes.
That is some top notch. You know what, Angela Lane? I am here for you. Good job. That is great healing right there.
She then says, "We've heard from Mikey King about this match. We haven't heard from Keith Lee about this. Does he think I'm not important enough to respond to? Does he think I'm just going to be some speed bump?" And at this point, Keith Lee starts walking to the ring. And again, the Nova Pro crowd being the best, everybody on the side that Angelus is looking to starts doing the whole "you might want to turn around" point.
Nice. This crowd sounds great. I love all of you people. You're all rock.
So, I didn't even mention that I had a big part in this, because when they announced during the pre-show that we had achieved our first ever turn-away crowd, I started a "we sold out" chant.
Nice. Smart.
So anyway, back to this. Keith Lee gets in the ring, and after playing to the crowd a little, he says, "Do you know why I haven't talked to you? Because I am a star around the world. I have been busy having matches in Europe, Japan, the West Coast, Chicago, everywhere. This match means more to you than it does to me." Basically the whole M. Bison, but for me it was Tuesday speech.
Nice reference. I approve.
Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, little drinking game for those in the commentary. Anytime we go off topic with something before 2000, take a drink.
Yeah, that would be one of your chances to take a drink. R.I.P. Raul Julia, you would take it from us far too soon, even though it's been 20 years.
So then he turns to Angelus and says, "But I am aware of what's happened. And here's the deal. You can apologize to Mikey King and to his family right now, and I'll go easy on you." And Angelus Lane takes the mic and says, "I would do it again."
That scoundrel! How dare she?
Right?
How dare she?
So Keith Lee says, "Well, you had your chance, and tonight you're just going to have to bask in my glory."
Nice. Was this your first time seeing Keith Lee live?
It was, yes.
What are your thoughts?
First off, that he is an awesome human being.
He is.
I got to talk to him after the show, ask him what he thought of the place. What he thought, what his year was like. I got an 8x10 of him in the match against Dijak and Beyond that basically put him on the map. So he's a great guy. He likes to talk to people. He has a very soft-spoken demeanor. He just seems like the kind of person who loves to connect to the fans and is still sort of in awe that he's had a breakout year.
That's a good way of putting it. That's a really good way of putting it.
Oh, I should also mention, by the way, that per Angelus Lane's request, we found out this match was made no DQ, and I just want to imagine right now the conversation there. Just imagine Mikey King saying, "Wait, you want to take on 350 pounds of an angry Texan and have no DQ? Let me think about this for a second."
Yeah, exactly. As long as you sign this here waiver.
Yeah, no kidding. So let's see here. Checking my notes. The next match was... Oh, here it is. Yeah, the next match was Innocent Isaiah, the other half.
Wait, so how'd the Keith Lee match go?
Hey, that's the main event. I'm getting there.
Oh, okay. I thought that was it right there. Okay, I'm sorry.
Right. So the next match was Innocent Isaiah, who is... this is interesting. It is Virginia, and he is openly gay, the character anyway. And we all love him. 2017, everybody.
Nice.
And he's teaming with Faye Jackson, who is really good at working the crowd. Is a good baby face. You may have seen her in Women of Honor a couple of times. She basically does a Soul Train gimmick, for lack of a better way of putting it. And they took on Veda Scott and Chuck Taylor trademark. Now, for those of you who don't watch Chikara, let me explain. The Chuck Taylor you know and love announced his retirement from Chikara a couple years ago. And since, he didn't really care anymore, he wasn't going to wrestle, he sold the rights to the Chuck Taylor name to Stokely Hathaway, who then put it on his cousin, who is now officially going by Chuck Taylor TM. Obviously, Taylor is still wrestling now, the real Chuck Taylor, I should say. So whenever he appears in Chikara or anywhere else that Stokely Hathaway is, he instead goes by Dustin. That you may have seen, in recaps, Dustin written all caps. That's the Kentucky Gentleman. So there was a little confusion from some of the fans early on who, when they saw the announcement, they're like, "Oh, right, Chuck Taylor." That's not Chuck Taylor. Yes, it is. Long story. Anyway, Chuck Taylor came out and sung his own entrance music and he's actually a decent singer, by the way.
Okay.
And the crowd was really into it. And then every once in a while, he'd hand the mic off to Veda Scott to sing a line, and Veda Scott did her best Jillian Hall. So that was cool. Then Faye and Isaiah came out. I swear they had a twerk party for the gated community fans. It was great. They get in the ring. Chuck Taylor becomes enamored with Faye Jackson and sings a love ballad, which annoys Veda. But even funnier, Innocent Isaiah assumes that the love ballad is for him and gets enraptured over it. And you can see Chuck Taylor as he's singing going, "This is not what I had in mind."
Like this is not what I signed up for, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly. Just a great bit of comedy right there. Anyway, Veda attacks during all of this chaos. They have a standard mixed tag match. Faye at one point goes to hot tag to Isaiah, and Bo Crockett runs out from the back, yanks Isaiah off the apron, throws him into the ring post because, some feuds just must continue.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor and Veda pick up the win, and after the match, Isaiah gets on the mic and says, "Bo, for the last few months, you've been trying to knock me down and take me out, and I keep getting back up." And when you hear "I keep getting back up," you know where they're going with this. So next month, he lays out the challenge for the second anniversary show, Nova Project 3, for a last man standing match. So there you go. The feud that you love is going to come to a head at Nova Project 3. All right, so...
I'm happy. I'm here for that.
Oh, yes. Next match was John Kerman, who is our local MMA guy, against Chip Day. Chip Day, I've been told, can do this MMA style wrestling, and in fact, there were times when he was able to fit in. They started the match basically by having a strike off. Each one would kick the other in the leg as hard as possible, and the first one to fall down loses, basically. So they're firing back and forth, back and forth. They kept this mostly an MMA style grapple match. Day tried to break out and do some of his wrestling moves. These two, I think, had their time cut because of all the VR problems, I would guess. Because about 7 minutes in, Kerman gets the win out of nowhere with a pinning hold. So disappointing, unfortunately, but it's not the last we'll see of Chip Day. So I'm willing to give everybody involved a pass. These things happen. You can't be on every week,
Mm-hmm.
The next match. All right, so that's all warm up. After this, it is all awesome from here. Our next match is Fred Yehi and Tim Donst.
Oh, I like me some Fred Yehi.
Yes, and I love me some Tim Donst. He is my favorite wrestler.
Tim is quite great, quite excellent.
Mm-hmm. Of course, if you watch some of his stuff in CZW, he plays a really scummy heel. If you watch him in AIW, he is this plucky babyface who gets who gets bloodied and beaten, keeps coming back. He had a hellacious brawl with Danny Havoc last week, by the way. So if you're an AIW fan, check that out. Here, he is the white bread babyface, and just to show you that things that happen organically in wrestling tend to be the best. About 2 months ago, when he had his match with Anthony Henry, his bootlace came untied while he was doing his entrance. So he stops everyone before the match starts, and when he notices it, and ties up his shoe. And of course, we're all into that. We're like, "Hey, good for you, man."
Safety first. Safety
that's where it
always
came from. This show. Because later in that match, he goes up to the top rope to hit somebody on the outside, and rather than do that, he goes to the apron and jumps off there with an axe handle instead, and the crowd loves it. They start chanting "safety first," and that's basically become his thing now in Nova Pro, is that he is that's one of his nicknames now, "Safety First Tim Donst." It's great. And it continued here because, as you know, Fred Yehi wrestles in a very minimalistic gear. He'll have the shorts, he'll have the sneakers. He looks like basically you just get off the court from a pickup basketball game. Donst,
good way of putting it. I never thought about that, but that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Donst sees this, takes off one of his knee pads and offers it to Yehi. Yehi refuses at first, so they go through the opening sequence. Donst looks to stomp the ligaments right out of Yehi's knee. Yehi moves out of the way. They have a standoff. Donst says, "Now do you want the knee pad?" And Yehi reluctantly puts it on. A couple minutes after that, Yehi goes for his shotgun drop kick, and this has to have been planned, and it's brilliant that it was. You know how he does that drop kick where he bounces off the middle rope and drop kicks a kneeling opponent?
Yes.
Here, he bounces off the middle rope and stops because the middle rope has a little too much give to it. So Donst stops the match, rolls out of the ring, gets a wrench from under the ring, and starts tightening the middle rope during the match. And Yehi follows suit.
That's very Tim Donst.
Yes. Yehi follows suit. They're both working on one of the turnbuckles. The crowd starts a righty-tighty, lefty-loosey chant.
Okay, well, always an exciting time here in Nova.
It's weird, I know.
Pro.
So from there, they finally have their match. Tim Donst is always good for a 15-minute technical match in Nova Pro, just so you know. And this was no exception. Yehi worked the arm and hand. He loves to stomp the hand of his opponent. So he did that for the match, worked over the arm. Wound up almost coming into the finish because Donst wanted to go for his full Nelson crossface, and he couldn't quite, lock it in because his hand had been shot 6 ways from Sunday by Yehi's attacks. Yehi reverses to a Fujiwara armbar. Donst tries to cradle him. They fall into the ropes. This is one of the things about Nova Pro. If the finish winds up getting too close to the ropes, they'll just pull everyone out and do the finish and do a different finish. And you see this sometimes. It doesn't really bother me. It's a thing that happens. So Yehi charges into an arm drag. Donst gets a cartwheel sunset flip. If you kind of know what I'm going for, a sunset flip from the side instead of jumping over the top. And he gets the pin that way. 3.5 stars, especially because at the end, Yehi goes to raise Donst's hand in victory, and Donst pulls away and says, "No, this is the bad arm, remember? Raise my other hand."
Okay. Very Sasha Banks. I like it.
Mm-hmm. So that was the match heading into intermission, after which we all had cake and champagne with Papa Hales.
Nice.
The first match on the other side of intermission is The Ugly Ducklings against Chet Sterling and Eric Royal. Chet Sterling and Eric Royal are two of the top baby faces in Nova Pro. Eric Royal is the ace of the company, who is the guy that they have go against all the big names that come in. Chet Sterling was, until just recently, the PWI Ultra J champion, and in fact just won the Weaver Cup in CWF Mid-Atlantic. Big deal there. The Ugly Ducklings are, oh my gosh, they are awesome. They are these. Both guys are about 5'7" or so.
Okay.
They have great double teams. They're always running. They get the crowd involved. They'll come out wearing the old Mighty Ducks goalie mask. They'll quack to get the crowd's attention. Nova Pro loves them some Ugly Ducklings right now. This is only their second appearance, and they have absolutely engaged the crowd in both of them. And this match was just 10 minutes of nonstop craziness. The Ugly Ducklings hitting and running, flying all over the place. Chet Sterling does some high flying as well. Eric Royal suplexing the crap out of anybody who gets near him. Lots of great double teams from the Ducklings. I love their monkey flip into a cannonball spot that they do. Just a really unique look. They go for their finisher on Sterling. Eric Royal breaks it up. And Eric Royal and Chet Sterling hit an amazing double team. Royal picks Lance Lude up for a powerbomb. Sterling comes off the top rope with the blockbuster, and they hit that at the same time. And then Royal stacks Lude up and gets the pin that way. Another 3.5-star match. And it's only it's 10 minutes of just total energy. You're going to love it. Let's see. The next match is one that is probably an acquired taste. But have you seen any of the articles on the progressive liberal Daniel Richards, the new Mr. 500, by the way?
I have a little. I've seen bits and pieces of him. I heard he was there though. I heard that he was at in your building,
yes,
in your arena, in Arena Nova Pro.
The progressive liberal usually does his stuff in places like Kentucky and West Virginia and Tennessee, where he's guaranteed to get big heel heat.
The gimmick doesn't work as well in Northern Virginia.
Actually, you'd be surprised.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, we'll see.
They did something really ingenious about it. His opponent is Brandon Money Green, who is one of the guys that I will always pimp to go to a higher level. He is one of the best managers, and he is one of the best talkers in the Mid-Atlantic. And they played that to the hilt. With a nickname like Money Green, he's playing the rich guy gimmick. He looks like a younger Monopoly man. He's got the handlebar mustache. He wears the Matthew Lesko $ outfit, basically. And before the match, he gets on the mic, and he talks about, putting in effort. He talks about how ever since he was little, he knew that what was important was getting to the top. He knew that it was a cutthroat business. And he admired people who found a way to the top, such as that great entrepreneur, Donald Trump. We have our hook.
There it is.
And Donald Trump admires people who find ways to get to the top, who are not held back. And then he starts, healing on the crowd a little. And this is where Daniel Richards comes out wearing trunks that say "Dump Trump" on the back. He says, how can you respect a guy like that? He takes his jacket off and he's wearing the "Not My President" shirt.
All right. So this is a clever way to go. Okay.
Northern Virginia is the DC area is heavy Democrat because Democrats are more in favor of big government, and everybody here works for the government.
I was about to say everyone within 100 miles of the district works for the government.
Right, exactly. So this should tell you something about the times we live in. An anti-presidential screed got a USA chant at a wrestling show. Go figure.
An anti-presidential screed, that's amazing. I need to save my shekels and make my way down to one of these shows one day.
Well, I'll tell you right now, they have a show over Thanksgiving weekend if you wanna have a target date.
I can maybe make that happen. Actually, I'll have to start. Yeah, I think I can maybe take the metro or something. Maybe make that happen.
All right. Well, I'll keep in touch with you over that. But anyway,
please go on.
Is further proof of why I love Brandon Green. He dedicated all of his moves to the Clintons. Like he would hit a DDT and say, "I call that the Lewinsky."
Jesus.
Or he'd go for a leg drop and say, "This'll hurt more than Benghazi."
Jesus.
He puts on a camel clutch and screams, "You're supposed to submit. Didn't you get the email?"
Oh God, kill me. God, this gimmick is going. This gimmick has gone like not so far over the top. It's gone back around.
Yeah, like I said, the guy is just great at getting heat, and that's why I keep saying he should get a bigger stage. I really think so. Richards makes the comeback, gets a good dive to the outside. He wins with a straightjacket neck breaker. You know, the match is what it is. It's just to fire up the crowd. We all chant USA. Everybody has a good time.
Yeah, exactly.
The
Let's look their match.
Yeah, the second from the top match is a 6-man tag featuring 2 of the top heel factions. And if you're wondering why we have a heel versus heel match, it's actually got a good story to it. Remember how last month I told you that Eric Royal had to run the gauntlet?
Yes.
Well, as part of that match, Bobby Shields of the 1% team was a little bossy as captain towards Alexander James, who's his 1% teammate, was okay with it, and Trip Cassidy of the Carnies, who absolutely was not. And Cassidy said, "If you're going to be that way, you can do this on your own." He walks out of the match. And so here we go this week with the Carnies, the full three-man Carnies of Nick Iggy, Kerry Awful, and Trip Cassidy against the 1%, the trifecta of the 1%, which is Logan Easton LaRue, Alexander James, and Bobby Shields. And it's a great Rudo versus Rudo match. You know, both sides take turns working the half of the crowd that's in their favor. They take turns being face in peril. Near the end of the match, Bo Crockett appears again, but Logan Easton LaRue cuts him off with a dive. Those two head to the back, and the Carnies hit their tag finisher, the Force Destroyer, on Alexander James. Have you seen this move, by the way?
No, but I love the name.
Okay. This move is so contrived it only works in pro wrestling, but it works in pro wrestling. What they do is they'll double over both of their opponents. Then they will mash them together so it looks like one of them is about to give the other a pile driver. Smack both of them so that they can't fight back, and then flip the pile over so that essentially they are forcing one member of the team to give a destroyer to the other.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you kind of see that?
Yeah, I can picture it. It's very contrived is a good word.
Yeah. But it's it pops the crowd a little. That's James out of the match. Bobby Shields, the guy who started all this, is the last one standing, but he falls victim to a tombstone from Trip Cassidy, the guy who got offended at the beginning. So Cassidy pins Shields, and it's just a nice detail to be able to see that they remember how this started, and it's not just 6 guys having a match. And now, here we go.
Here we go. Main event.
Yes. Now, I'll tell you right now, this I thought was going to be a big challenge coming in. You have Keith Lee, who is, by even the most conservative estimate, twice the size at least of his opponent. Plus, he's male and she's female. And we're supposed to root for Keith Lee.
Yeah, exactly. It's a David versus Goliath doesn't work as well when Goliath is the babyface.
Right. So how are we going to make this happen?
Generally.
But Angelus Lane was just full-on Owen Hart annoying prick for the match. And
kicking the leg out of the leg?
I'm sorry?
Kicking the leg out of the leg.
No, I don't mean like that. It started when Keith Lee was the first to come out. Angelus Lane runs out during his entrance and whacks him in the back with a chair. Then they get in the ring.
All right.
Then they get in the ring, and Lane attacks him with a chair 3 or 4 more times. This just annoys Keith Lee. He doesn't sell any of it. It's great. And so through this match, Keith Lee is playing kind of the, I know I can finish this match whenever I want. I'm not really taking it seriously at first bit. He'll throw her halfway across the ring, walk over to her, pick her up, shrug off her offense, throw her again, do these nonchalant covers at first. To just kind of show that he knows he could, that he thinks he can win this without any trouble. And Angelus Lane keeps fighting back, keeps using the chair to her advantage. At one point, gets a senton off the top rope with the assist of the chair to Keith Lee. And by the way, I want to give Brad Stutz a shout out here. He is a great announcer. And you hear him in CWF Mid-Atlantic, you know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
In this match, I'm actually, for this match, I'm sitting where I can sometimes overhear commentary, near the commentary booth.
Okay.
And I hear Brad Stutz saying, you have to understand why Keith Lee is here. It's kind of like from the old days, like 30 years ago, when a promoter would have somebody who was running roughshod and didn't respect the authority, he'd call in his favors and he'd bring in Andre the Giant. This is kind of what's happening here.
Exactly. The Sheik would make an appearance, or Nick Bockwinkel, or Andre, or someone,
Exactly. And being able to tie that in and say, this isn't just a promoter with a vendetta, this is a time-honored tradition.
I love it. You know me, I am a mark for wrestling history, and I love anything that is a callback. That is a callback to those days. Even in this day and age, where wrestling is so much different than it was back then. Anything that can tie the string together to the old days makes me very happy.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So at one point in the match, the best part of this match, Lane has worn Keith Lee out with strikes and with a chair. Keith Lee is down on one knee at this point. He's sort of dazed. Angelus Lane grabs him by the head, looks him in the eyes, and is trying to say, "Now you will bask in my glory." And that's as far as she gets before Keith Lee, in one motion, rises up to his feet, lifts her up, and delivers the most wicked spirit bomb you have ever seen.
Nice.
It gets a holy shit chant and is fully deserved.
Nice. I love Keith Lee. I wish him nothing but the best. And this Angelus Lane seems like it's someone right up my alley. I got to watch more of her. Hope she comes to my neck of the woods in the near future. She seems like just the perfect smarmy wrestling heel, and I am all in on that.
All right. Well, that only gets a 2 count. The match continues.
Oh, what?
Yep. Keith Lee knocks her down again, decides maybe if I hit the moonsault, it'll end it. But Lane is able to get up, crotches him on the ropes, follows him up, and delivers a spider suplex off the top rope. Somehow, just amazes the crowd. That doesn't end the match either. They keep going for a few more minutes. Lee once again goes for the moonsault. This time Lane is playing possum, rolls to the apron, follows him to the top. They're fighting out on the top. The middle rope is quaking from the weight of Keith Lee trying to maintain his balance.
Okay.
Lee steps down from the ropes being staggered, but then charges in, knocks Angelus Lane off balance, pulls her off the top rope, and it's ground 0 for the pin.
Okay.
So, yeah. Keith Lee gets the pin. Match of the night, 3 3/4 stars. I had 4 different matches at 3 stars or more, by the way.
Sounds like a hell of a show. I was about to say.
After the match, Keith Lee is on the mic and says, "Okay, Mike, I did it. Did it really have to be this way?" And then he says, "Angelus, I told you I didn't know much about you when this started, that I didn't think about you much. And I'll tell you right now, you're one of the toughest people I've ever faced.
Okay.
And I know how tough you are. And I know how tough you've been for this great sellout crowd. So I know you can get up. Get up and bask in the glory."
Nice. Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
He helps her up. He leaves the ring. We give both people a standing ovation. And that's what the show goes out on. Angelus Lane, took her medicine, took her lumps.
Perhaps face turn?
I'm sorry?
Perhaps a face turn? Slow building face turn?
Possibly. I mean, certainly a respect moment,
Okay.
So that was cool for the summer. It should be available in a couple of weeks from Smart Mark Video for both DVD and VOD and MP4 and everything else. I'm absolutely certain that it's on your wish list.
Oh, absolutely.
Our next show, as I said, is the second anniversary show. Nova Project 3, September 22nd at the Jewish Community Center. And they've already announced a bunch of matches for it. Here's the card right now. First off, our main event, Eric Royal and Logan Easton LaRue in a rematch of the Commonwealth Cup final as Eric Royal looks to avenge the only loss he has suffered under the Nova Pro banner. We have the last man standing match, Innocent Isaiah and Bo Crockett, as the Cutie and the Beast storyline looks to come to its conclusion. We will have Angelus Lane. Looks like there's no more hard feelings because she has been given a match against Maya Yim, who is actually from Fairfax County and is making a homecoming just like she did at the last anniversary show. We have Tag Team Dream Match. The Carnies, Nick, Iggy, and Kerry Awful against the Ugly Ducklings, Lance Lude and Rob Killjoy.
All right.
Daniel Richards will be making his grand return by popular demand against an opponent yet to be announced. And just mentioned about a few days ago, Chip Day will be back, and he will be facing Dominic Guarini. So right there, this is half the card, maybe the majority of the card. You see that lineup. What do you think of it?
I think it sounds like I should be having you should talk about this show in a month. I think it sounds that Nova Pro knows exactly what they are, and that they're great at giving good matches and entertaining matches of a different variety to the people who show up. And I'm glad that they're doing well. And I'm not just saying that because they follow me on Twitter, as all good people do, at Giatsabas. But they know that in 2 years that they've gone this far, and I'm excited to see where they go in the future.
Yeah, I hope this becomes an institution. They don't really have to grow or become regional or national. They seem very happy being the official wrestling show of the DC area.
That makes good.
Yep.
Y'all got to put up with living in the swamp. The least you can do is get good wrestling once a month.
Absolutely, I'm telling you.
That's it. It's the least you can do between the traffic and the bullshit and everything else. The least you can do is get good wrestling once a month.
Yeah, and I'm totally looking forward to this because the Jewish Community Center seats a lot more people than the NWVFD. It's about a mile from my house. I can walk there. In fact, I do walk there for one of my jobs with the rec league. And I am absolutely stoked. I am excited. Everybody seems to be having a great time. I talked to Lady J after the show. She loved it. We agree that Lee versus Lane is probably one of the 5 best matches Nova Pro's ever had. I got to, of course, see Papa Hales. Got to wish him happy birthday. Great times all around. So, yep, in 3 weeks, I will be at that Jewish Community Center, and I will be watching Nova Project 3. I'll also say, by the way, that Tim Dawson, Sanjay Dutt, and Faye Jackson are on the poster, but haven't had matches announced yet. So, this show's just going to get better and better.
I'm excited, my friend.
Okay.
Nova Pro, I love it. What do you want to talk about now?
Well, Brother George, what do you usually say during your sign-off?
Don't work yourself into a shoe.
And with that in mind, let's talk Triplemania.
Let's talk Triplemania.
Triplemania 25.
Actually, all we really care about, I mean, apparently the Dr. Wagner match was pretty good.
Oh, it was amazing. And the TLC match was just was an absolute bloodbath. Of course, AAA still has their matches that are dog shit because Mexican wrestling puts way too much stock in the dads.
Yeah. The Dr. Wagner match was really great. I enjoyed it. I watched it on the train.
Oh, yes.
And it was a lot of fun. I can see why Dr. Wagner kept the mask because it looks like he's about 900 years old without it. I get it.
Randy Savage did.
Yeah, I get it. That match was pretty great. That was a good way to end the Dr. Wagner career, or Dr. Wagner character, or at least the masked version of the Dr. Wagner character.
Yeah, and he, he's been around in Mexico for so long. He's been a part of so many great matches. I'm glad he got to go out in the main event. The biggest show in Mexico.
But that's not what we're talking about.
No, of course it isn't what we're talking about.
We are talking about Sexy Star. You know what the funny thing about the Sexy Star thing is, and I use the word funny in quotes.
Oh, there's so much shit.
I love how she has like 4 different stories. Her first story was like, oh well, let's set the scene. Let's back up. Sexy Star may or may not have shot on somebody and may or may not have torn someone's shoulder up on an armbar. The video evidence is fairly incriminating. Sexy Stars.
If you've only seen the finish, you're probably thinking, "What the hell's wrong with her?" If you've seen the entire match, you're thinking, "Okay, I kind of understand, but still, what the hell's wrong with her?"
Sexy Star's best defense is that she's such a shitty wrestler that she didn't know any better.
Yeah, I'm wondering who's counseling her at this point.
If I was running a company, I wouldn't book her, not because she may or may not shoot on people in the ring, but because she's just really bad at her job.
See, this is where we disagree. She seems to, I mean, maybe it's just because Lucha Underground told such a great story with her and Marty the Moth.
I think that's it. I think Lucha Underground, with all the smoke and the mirrors and the magic of the temple and all that, like some of those matches she had in season 1 were pretty bad. And
yeah,
it's not like they got better. Not like they got better.
Yeah, but season 2, she was really good.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not. She's not good at this wrestling thing. I think a lot of that is Lucha Underground and multiple takes and a lot of smoke and mirrors and good wrestlers, and Lucha Underground just putting guys in a position to succeed, as we've talked about in the past.
Yeah. And, I've been following all these twists and turns. If you know me on Twitter, you know that I've been trying to figure out an answer that isn't she's a complete bitch. And a lot of, there's a lot of funny things that are being attached to this. Like, you go back to how she won the title as part of Taya being stripped of it by Vampiro because Vampiro is totally.
By the way, I love how that's turned into a work between Johnny Mundo and Vampiro.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, was anyone else surprised that Mundo retained? I know I was.
I was too. I know. You know what's funny about this? I love that Jeff Jarrett and AAA. I don't think anyone thinks it's a work, but I love that Jeff Jarrett and AAA are big enough carnies to try to make an angle out of it.
Jeff Jarrett will do anything for. He is so Memphis.
By the way, did you notice how he looked like drunk during his match, or something? Something was going on with Jeff Jarrett. I think the road has finally caught up to him at whatever 50 or whatever old he is.
He's past 50 right now, I think.
And it's not exactly an easy 50.
Right. No, he's been at it for 30 years. Jeff, I love you. Thanks for the memories, but go ahead. Just work backstage at GFW where you can network with people, get the company to be financially solvent. That's what you do, and spend some time with Karen and the kids. Really.
Yeah, the whole Jeff Jarrett professional wrestler needs to stop happening.
Yeah,
because that was tough to watch.
Anyway, like I said, this seems to have built off of Vampiro's actions in the Summer of Scandal, because it later turned out on an episode of Talk is Jericho, Taya appeared and very publicly said that she hoped Sexy Star got the shit kicked out of her, which is either an exaggeration that wrestlers do. Normally, I would say that, but then you go back and watch the match and you see that about 2 minutes in, Lady Shani kicked Sexy Star in the head really, really hard, and that's what set her off. Not to forgive her or excuse her, mind you, but just to try and piece together what happened. This match has become my personal Zapruder film at this point.
I was about to say, and then she shot on someone else.
Yeah, I know.
Because, like, hey, person A kicked me in the head, so I'm going to shoot on person B for reasons passing understanding. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's just weird. And I'm trying to figure out, first off, the non-apology she gave. To be fair, she was at a press conference for Dancing with the Stars Mexico and probably wasn't anticipating the question, because either she is the most naive person in history or she's just kind of, well, I was told by my brother in the Daily Vindicator Prime that part of the problem is that Mexico honors kayfabe.
Yes, that's huge for them.
Right. So she couldn't exactly apologize in public.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that said, she needs to, get on Twitter and give, like Rosemary did, give her side of what happened, give a full and complete apology to Rosemary if she wants to get anywhere near the top of this thing. One thing I will say, by the way, and I know that Brother Swift and Sister Tanya brought this up on their on their signature, on their sign-off episode.
On the sign-off episode, I'm 4 out of 40 for Wednesday night shooting. That was some good radio, but I get it. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I was listening to them, and I get the decision because there's not much left to shoot on in this company. But we'll get there.
Okay. And one of the things they mentioned is that, and it's something that I noticed, and something that I think is the reason I'm, looking for a defensible angle from this. When Jeff Hardy showed up being completely unprofessional and criminal at Victory Road in 2011, nobody blamed him. They blamed TNA.
True.
When Stone Cold Steve Austin left the company and got arrested for domestic abuse, when he came back, all was forgiven, and he was treated as a god once again. Even when WWE booked him to give a stunner to Stacy Keibler because she wasn't interested in drinking beer with him, nobody thought that was, kind of shady of WWE or cringeworthy. In retrospect, obviously it is.
Truth.
And where were you on June 28th, 2007? Just out of curiosity.
I'll tell you where I was. This was right at the end of my wrestling hiatus. I was at work, and at the time I worked for the ESPN Zone, and it was my job to be in charge of programming. And one of the things I did before we had a staff meeting was tell people what was going on in the world of sports. And that was at the top of ESPN's page was professional wrestler kills himself and his family. And I said,
right.
Hey guys, I used to watch wrestling. I know some of you do watch wrestling. Just FYI, I've heard about this. As we've discussed, we don't show wrestling here, in case anyone asks, because we didn't at the time. ESPN now all in on WWE, but at the time wanted nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm. I bring this up because I was at
work, and I was at work, and I was about to start grad school too. I remember that was.
Wow, okay. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. That's it. I was at work.
All right. I bring this up because I was like 3 or 4 message boards removed from cage side seats, which didn't exist at the time, obviously, yet. And I'll tell you right now, the place had a lot of people who were Benoit apologists. The phrase "I choose to remember Chris Benoit as" became a meme on that board. People didn't want to accept or just wanted to gloss over how he ended his life. Now, it might have been the shock of the moment, but I bring up all of these examples, and I'm also going to bring up another one. When Matt Hardy, being the immature person that he was in 2005, decided to make a big stink over the fact that his girlfriend left him for another man, the wrestling reaction was basically a desire to drum Lita out of the sport. I think that's maybe an exaggeration, but
no, that's fair.
She got the worst of it.
Yes, that's fair.
Now,
far more than Edge, which is depressing.
Oh yeah,
which is
people
depressing.
were ready to forgive Edge, and he's the one who was the homewrecker.
Exactly. Edge. As much as there's a bad guy in this situation, it's Edge rather than Lita.
Right. Of course.
There's no one is a bad guy. Let's be fair. Let's be explicitly clear. When a relationship doesn't work, there's myriad reasons why. The fact that we even having this discussion means that far too much information was revealed.
Absolutely.
If someone is wearing the black hat, it's not Lita, it's Edge. But go on.
Yeah. So let's tie all of these 5 things together here: the Steve Austin arrest, the Lita love triangle, the Benoit murders, the Jeff Hardy drunken stupor, and now Sexy Star's armbar shoot. Do you notice a pattern with how the internet is reacting?
I do. Go on.
Does this piss you off or what?
Go on. Spell it out.
Okay, I will. The 3 guys who were unprofessional got a break, and the 2 women were excoriated.
Yes.
And this is something that is on my radar right now because I, with being good friends with Papa Hales, this is something that we talk about, that the Lady J has talked about, the disrespect for women in wrestling. Normally we're talking about for women who are part of the crowd and how they're just sort of there are too many gatekeeper fans out there. Let's just be honest.
Yes.
But this just drives me up the wall. In that I guarantee you that if Johnny Mundo started shooting on Tejano Jr. during the TLC match, we would be hearing about how he was sticking it to Vampiro, and good for him. If AJ Styles lost his temper and took it out on Kevin Owens during a SmackDown match, people would be saying, wow, that match got real in a hurry. And maybe I'm sort of projecting here, and I totally understand if I am. I'm sure there are people in the comments saying, no, I would be hating AJ Styles and Johnny Mundo if they did that, but the pattern of the wrestling fandom at large is a bunch of cavemen.
Well, let me ask you this.
All right.
And I'm speaking in generalities. I want to be very clear.
Right. No, we all are.
I am intentionally painting with a broad brush.
Okay.
So, on the aggregate, are wrestling fans sexist?
Oh, holy shit! Yes.
Okay. 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 On the aggregate, are wrestling fans racist? See, that I don't think so.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
See, and I wonder why they are so willing. Again, I'm intentionally painting with a broad brush here, and I intentionally, and I wonder why why they're so willing to. I don't want to say diminish, but they're so willing to throw women under the bus. In general, and I don't even want to get into the specifics. In general,
right. I'm going to throw this out here as a possibility. Wrestling's biggest boom period, the two big boom periods before this. In the 1980s, Moolah was still running around and destroying women's wrestling as we know it.
Yes.
And in the 1990s, the biggest women's star was Sable, who basically existed for masturbation purposes. I'll be crude about it. That she did not wrestle much. She basically stood at ringside and looked really, really hot, and then posed in Playboy, and her entire purpose, and at least as far as the crowd was concerned, was to be hot. So there are the two biggest periods of wrestling history at this point. And I would say that the one in the 90s, the Attitude Era, is the more damaging one because as you see at WWE events, especially the big ones, a lot of the Attitude Era fans never left and they never grew up.
Exactly. Or they grew up and they never got out of that mentality. Like they they grew up in their real world lives, and when they go back into a WWE event, it's like they're transported back into the 90s.
Exactly, and it's but there's more to it than that. And I went on a bit of a Twitter storm about this. I'm going to say right now,
I saw it. I wanted to give you a chance to elaborate on that. More than 140 characters at a time.
Yeah, yeah. I think I've read about 20 tweets at once about it. So, the history of women's wrestling has never been pretty. Women's wrestling.
It's always been weird shoot stuff too.
Yeah. I grant that in like the 30s and 40s there was more respect. Mildred Burke was a respected wrestler.
Yeah, June Byers, etc. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Mae Young was around that time. Yes, Mae Young was around in the 40s. She was that old. Then Moolah came along and basically crushed women's wrestling as we know it. You go from there to the 90s, where women are explicitly eye candy and are designed for horny male fans to get excited over, and they don't even try to hide that fact.
No, they embrace it. They steer into it.
Mm-hmm. You had a brief period in the early aughts, 2002 to 2005 was actually a very underrated time for women's wrestling. Not just Trish and Lita. You had people like Victoria, Molly Holly, Mickie James, Jazz, and even when you look at the people who were eye candy at the time, Christy Hemme does not get enough credit for how much she loves the business. I think.
True. Agreed.
She was
speaking of, let's give some props to the artist formerly known as TNA, because the Knockouts division was either the Knockouts or the X division was easily the best part of TNA programming for half a decade.
Yes, very true. They helped.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to get that on the record.
No, you're right. I didn't even mention that in my thread. I should have.
The Knockouts and the X division were the two best parts of TNA for a long time.
Yes.
And you had WWE stealing gimmicks wholesale. Lay Cool was the Beautiful People, which has now been morphed into the Icons. Sorry, Chris.
Hey, everything old is new again in wrestling.
The 7-year rule, right?
Right.
But I mean, you had Gail Kim and Awesome Kong having great matches, and ODB having good street fights, and you had them being the, I don't want to say saviors, because I don't want to ever equate TNA with saving anything. But you had
them, something good. Rest assured, it's an accident.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't intentional, but it took a long time to get to where we are, and you always hear that cliche about ending racism in people's hearts and minds. Well, I mean, maybe wrestling fans need to kind of figure that out too, right?
Absolutely. And to go back to Hemme, when she went to TNA, she was sort of, people forget this, she was the Marx to Gail Kim's Lenin when it came to the revolution of women's wrestling in TNA.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how much you know about it. WrestleCrap covers this because TNA handled it with their usual grace and dignity. She was managing the Voodoo Kim Mafia at the time, who, as you know, that is TNA speak for the New Age Outlaws.
Yes, with Vince McMahon's initials.
Because wrestling is petty and we all love it.
Yes.
And they talked about how they were the Mafia, the Voodoo Kim Mafia talked about how they were the linchpins of DX, how they were the reason that DX was great.
Yes. Not that Shawn Michaels fella. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, who cares, really? By the way, side note about that. Remember how the VKM were making this gag challenge to DX and said that they put $1 million on the line if DX showed up in the TNA ring and fought them?
No, but I'm surprised it didn't go anywhere. Oh, wait, I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, like WWE would respond to that. But the funny part is, Dixie Carter actually kept $1 million in escrow just in case.
I love this business with all my heart. I love professional wrestling. There is nothing in the history of the world like wrestling.
I know.
Nothing. It is a beautiful disaster. Not just Cody Rhodes' finishing maneuver. It is a beautiful, chaotic nightmare.
The famous quote, "To those who get it, no explanations needed. To those who don't get it, no explanation's going to help."
That's it, right?
Right. So anyway, back to the Hemme story. She interrupts Billy Gunn at this point and says, "You're forgetting someone. You're forgetting China. She was a big part of the success of DX. Why are you just writing her off? She's the reason I wanted to be a wrestler." And Billy Gunn, being Billy Gunn, says, "Shut up with that shit and go back into the kitchen."
And he was the face!
Yes! I know! This being TNA, he was the face of the deal.
He was the face!
So Christy, completely pissed off, is going to Jim Cornette, which is never a good idea when you're talking about helping women's wrestling out.
No.
And, asks for some help. And Cornette the very next week, and this is what's on WrestleCrap, by the way, so just so you know, puts her in a tuxedo match against the Timekeeper, who is a Big Dick Johnson ripoff. Jesus Christ, TNA.
God, I love and hate everything. I just hate. I don't even love. Go die, TNA. Go away.
I'd like to say they've gotten rid of all the rot, but who the hell knows at this point?
Yeah.
So anyway, this led to Christy bringing a bunch of tag teams to take on the Voodoo Kid Mafia. And then Gail Kim showed up, said Christy had a point. They started focusing more on her because she just famously walked into the company after walking out of the WWE, quite literally. And
that was it. We were off to the races.
Yeah. And Hemme, to her credit, trained very hard. She worked hard to get herself to be a wrestler. She was doing training with AJ Styles on the road all the time, and in fact, that's why she had to retire because she took a bad move in training, which it happens when you're green. You make mistakes, but this caused her a neck injury, and she did not feel comfortable being a wrestler, so they made her a ring announcer. So there's a little background into that, but yeah, so TNA sort of took up the baton from the WWE as far as women's wrestling is concerned, but the WWE has so much more influence, so much more. So women's wrestling really needed to be jump-started, and thankfully, there was a takeover match featuring 4 fantastic women wrestlers that reset the counter.
I'm not the first to propose this theory. I won't be the last. But how lucky are we that Triple H only had daughters? And he wanted his girls to grow up and have positive role models in a business where one hadn't existed in the mainstream for 50 years.
That's a good point.
I'm not the first to suggest that. I don't want to claim any credit for that.
No, you're right. But, and
how lucky are we in some form or fashion, obviously, and I'm not trying to white knight the guy because the women in the ring are the ones doing the work.
Yeah,
but how lucky are we that may have played even a little bit of influence?
Yes, and somebody who's been watching wrestling as long as I have has a complicated relationship with Triple H, but I'll give you props. This is something where he has made the business better.
I love the Triple H as you've read the Bible. Triple H as St. Paul making amends for all of his Roman living in the new canonization is something I'm here for,
I love that analogy.
Yeah, Triple H is St. Paul and something happening on the road to Damascus. Exactly. And now him coming out and trying to fix his life or to fix what he did wrong in most cases, not all of them, because he's still going to be Triple H. But him trying to right the wrong is something that intrigues the shit out of me. If I had the time and the wherewithal, I would write like a biography of this guy.
Oh,
we need a definitive biography of Vince McMahon. Apparently, there's a long-standing rumor that some major publishing house went to Meltzer and said, "We'll give you 7 figures to write the Vince McMahon biography," but Dave couldn't make it work because he's doing, too busy arguing people on Twitter. But if I won the lottery and didn't have to work and could just spend all day writing and talking about graphs, I would write the Triple H biography.
Now, would this be before or after you sent Matt Riddle and Brock Lesnar to crash through a D&D convention?
Oh, after.
Okay.
The first thing I'm doing with the money is having Matt Riddle and Brock Lesnar fighting at a D&D convention. What are you talking about? Absolutely. That's the first. Like, I'm gonna go from the bank to Matt Riddle's house. I'll just drive direct. I don't even know where he lives. I'll find him. I don't give a shit. I'll just go door to door until I run into the guy. It'll be like that scene in Love Actually where the Prime Minister's knocking at everyone's door looking for the chick.
Yep.
That'll be me.
Yeah, if you want to find Matt Riddle, just follow his smoke signals.
Exactly. And if you want to find Brock Lesnar, just follow his hunting in Canada.
Exactly.
So
the whole point of my little tweet storm was we're in a place right now where women's wrestling, it's kind of weird. It has a lot of respect for work rate, but there seems to be almost a desire for orthodoxy. People seem to think, well, women's wrestling will make it when they've defended WrestleMania or when they've, sold out an arena for an all-women show or something. I really don't set my sights that high. And part of it is that what I want to see is not more people necessarily embracing women's wrestling for the sake of women's wrestling. I want to see WWE build a division with storylines. I want to see GFW. I want to see GFW go back to the days where the division had a purpose. I want to see Ring of Honor do more than just throw the women a bone once or twice a year. I want to see women. I'll put it this way. I think that women's wrestling will have finally gotten what it deserves, when we no longer think of it as women's wrestling.
We just think of it as wrestling.
Yes.
Do you think we'll get there in the WWE? I don't know. I don't think we will as long as the powers that be are still the powers that be.
That's true. It's going to take a while, but there's work happening at the lower level, and I talked about people who were in that. I talked about Alley Cat mentioning this is somebody who makes her money being a gimmick. I talked about Maria Kanellis, who I think, if she were a man, would be Jimmy Hart. That's how good she is.
It's high praise. I can't argue with you. That is high praise, and I can't argue with you, my friend.
Right. There are people now who have realized that it's not a dichotomy. You're not either Playboy model or serious wrestler. And I think that's why there was a lot of hope attached to people like Bayley. Because, yes, she was a great wrestler. Yes, the match in Brooklyn was amazing. But Bayley understood how to build a character. And people were hoping that would be something that would help women's wrestling achieve normalcy in the WWE, because we all forget that Vince McMahon is still running the WWE sometimes. But this is basically what I'm getting at here is support women's wrestling, but support it because it's wrestling. Support it because these are people who love what they do and who want to be a big deal, who want to be
I think that's what they want too. I don't know for sure. I've never asked them, but I think if you went to Angela's Lane and you said, how do you want to be looked at, it would be, I want to be a wrestler.
Exactly. And I hope I hope people see that here she is working an intergender match against somebody twice her size, and she's able to play the heel and play the heel successfully. And I hope that shows that this is progress here. This is something, like I said, that I've been talking about, that Lady J and Papa Hale's been talking about, this idea that women really don't get the respect in wrestling that they should, and they're still seen as a novelty in a lot of places, and unfortunately, WWE is one of them. And, guys, just don't be dicks out there. Come on. And it pisses me off.
Wrestling fans, soccer fans, and hockey fans, and I'm sure there are more, are very close-minded when it comes to new fans. They're very like the hipsters who hate the band because they got big.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I remember, I'm a Blackhawks fan. To this day, there are still Blackhawk fans from before the team got good who hate new fans because they weren't around for when the team was bad. Well, yeah, no shit, because the team was bad, because they were doing anything else with their lives. But you know what? They're here now, and their ticket sales are going to pay for this team, and they're trying to be fans of this sport that you love. Embrace them. There are tons of people in this country, myself included, who are soccer fans because of World Cups.
Yes.
I don't need. Don't be the old guy who says, "Oh, it was better back in the day when only a few people watched soccer." It's better now. More publicity is good. Don't be the wrestling fan. Don't be the wrestling fan who doesn't like when new people show up to your sport, to your match.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace them. Show them. Explain to them how this works. I mean, it's cliche, but it's on us to be the reason why this works.
Absolutely. And I honestly, this is what bothers me more, to get back to the Triplemania thing that started this whole tangent. Although I'm not upset we had this tangent, by the way.
No, neither am I. And I didn't. And we don't plan stuff. Just FYI, we just talk. So I'm glad we did.
The entirety of our planning going into the show, by the way, was talking about the college football season starting.
Yeah, exactly. Which starts tomorrow in earnest. So that was our planning.
Yep.
But you know what though? You're right though. It's the hearts and minds. But go on. You were saying, bring it back to Triplemania, and then we'll talk about Roman Reigns.
Okay. The thing that bothered me the most is seeing some of the replies when the Lucha Underground episode aired, and seeing a bunch of people gleefully posting, for example, an animated GIF of Joey Ryan delivering a super kick to Sexy Star. Why does she have to be punished by having someone beat the shit out of her in the ring? Why does that have to be? I agree, there has to be something, but people taking the absolute glee in this, and it reminds me, going back to the Lita thing, of the people who enjoyed the whole live sex celebration, which, if it wasn't the most embarrassing moment of Lita's life, I'd kind of like to know what was. Um, there's a sense that people are right now being vindictive. They're screaming for heads to roll, and it's kind of disturbing, really.
Here's the thing, though, with Sexy Star. Don't shoot on your opponents, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. I'm not.
No, and I'm not saying you are. But in a normal business, if I do something wrong, I go to HR and I get yelled at. Or I don't get yelled at, but I get reprimanded.
Mm-hmm.
Wrestling isn't Carney Land anymore, where you take matters into your own hands. If you there should be far more organization than there is. Treat it like a real business. This isn't some Carney bullshit like the old days, you know?
Exactly. And
you don't want to book Sexy Star? If you run a promotion and you don't want to book Sexy Star because you think she's a danger to your wrestlers, God bless. I'm not going to argue with you.
Oh, no, I totally understand.
Don't book her and then have someone shoot on her, because it doesn't accomplish anything. It just makes you look like an idiot.
Yeah, and here's something I was discussing with Brother Chris privately, and he said I was reading too much into it, but I'll just throw this out here for you, and you can tell me I'm reading too much into it too. My question to you, Brother George: Sexy Star's gimmick, both in AAA and in Lucha Underground, is that she escaped an abusive relationship, and she is out there to show women who are in abusive relationships that there is a tomorrow. Do you think that the part about Sexy Star having been in an abusive relationship is a work or a shoot?
I don't know.
I ask this because if it's a shoot, just disclosure, I work as a counselor in the health field. People in abuse is not my specialty, but I've read, about behavior of people in as part of my job with counseling, and I will say that I think a lot of her reactions from the match onward would fit that profile.
I'll defer to you on this. I've honestly never thought about it. Now that I am thinking about it, I don't think she's that good enough of a worker, to be honest, to keep the gimmick going for as long as she has without there being some strain of truth. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
She's not that good enough at the job of wrestling.
So let me just present to all of you listening who are probably rolling your eyes right now that I'm mitigating what she did. One of the things about people who have been long-term abuse victims is that they remember that when they screw up, there are heavy, heavy punishments. So they try to talk themselves into saying they cannot screw up ever. Sexy Star unquestionably screwed up. But I think part of it is that there is a block in her mind that doesn't want to come out and admit it. That's why when Vampiro asked her to confront Rosemary after the show, she started running off excuses rather than just taking blame for it. And that's why that and kayfabe combined is why when she was asked about it in public, she said, I didn't even know that she was hurt. But that was one of the, and she said, I understand that we had a match and that things happened. I didn't know anything about it at the time, and but I don't want to talk about it right now. That is, none of us like being put on the spot, but for somebody who equates being put on the spot with physical pain, it's extra difficult. And it would not surprise me. some first-year psychology student at some college could write a thesis about any number of wrestlers, and she's just one of them. It would not surprise me if her history is causing what a lot of people see as selfish behavior in this case. Now, I'm not excusing it. She still needs to get through her mind that no matter what she's been through, what she did was still wrong. But I would take her aside. I would say, Señorita Dulce, I don't think you've quite recovered from what you've been through. Leave the business for a few months. Hand the Reina de Reinas championship to Vampiro so he can put it on whoever the hell he wants. Go find a therapist somewhere in Mexico or somewhere on a border state and just talk it out, because it's not going to leave you, but you can't let it define you. If that makes any sense. I hate to sound like I'm rambling, though.
No. I'm absorbing. I think it's unquestionable that she screwed up, but the reactions have been less than optimal from many people. Cody Rhodes appointing himself gatekeeper of the Indies is nothing I needed in my life, to be honest. Like, whatever. I mean, there's something to be said for magnanimity and charity and helping people, but I don't know. It's easier these days to just post a meme on Twitter.
Yeah, and WrestleCade and Wrestle Circus both said that they were going to pull her from future events. Fine, great, I get that.
Great, no problem to you. That's your prerogative. God bless. Right. You want to do great.
And by the way, WrestleCade actually replaced her with Rosemary, which might be one of the greatest shots fired in indie wrestling.
I like it. Good for them.
But
who's gonna be the bigger man and get her any help that she may need? I don't know. Or a woman. I don't mean the bigger man or bigger woman.
Right. And I guarantee you that it's not going to be anyone in AAA, because this is something.
AAA.
Yeah. I mean, first off, because AAA makes TNA and WCW look competent.
Exactly. I mean, what AAA is they're going to AAA forever.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
25 years. What makes you think it's going to stop now?
Exactly. Another 25 coming down the pipe.
Yeah. But also because if you look at the history of training in AAA, they subscribe to the Hiro Matsuda School of Training.
Yeah, that's not a good school.
Yeah, it's not. So,
Brother Chris. Or Brother, wow, I did it again. Brother Duke. Wow. Let's try that again. Brother Duke.
All right, let's move on to something happier, shall we?
Before we get out of here, do you have any thoughts on Roman Reigns and John Cena?
Yes, let's talk shall we?
Let's talk about Roman Reigns and John Cena.
Oh my, what a
that was a segment. That was that was a thing.
Best it ever. And I don't know how much of it was planned, but
I don't know. Dave and Mike Johnson say the whole thing was scripted, but who the fuck knows?
Right. A lot of John Cena now has become a meta character now that he's become a part-timer. And first off, who the hell thought that Roman Reigns could keep up with John Cena? The Miz can barely keep up with John Cena. He's the fucking Miz.
Yeah, that was. I mean, we talk all the time about putting your talent in position to succeed or fail. That's not
right.
Putting Roman Reigns in that position and then giving him. Now, we'll get to the delivery. There's words there, but putting him in that position and then giving him the fucking material they gave him is not putting a guy in a position to succeed.
And it's been the calling card. Vince McMahon wants Roman Reigns to be the star and doesn't actually try to help him out.
No, and I saw this on the Observer's board. You ready?
Sure, go for it.
Last 5 years, Okada has been the champion for 1,230 days. Last 5 years, Roman Reigns has been the Universal WWE Champion for 120 days. You want to make a guy the face of your company, you put the belt on him and make him the face of the company. You have him do exactly what he did when he came out after WrestleMania. Show up. You know what Roman Reigns needs to do? Show up, beat the shit out of guys, come out, say one line, go home. You know who does that? Brock Lesnar.
Yes. And it works.
It is crystal clear in all these scripted promos with the 40 writers that are on staff. They're not allowing Roman Reigns to be natural. Roman Reigns' biggest problem is that he is inauthentic. He's presented as inauthentic.
Mm-hmm. And there was the one time they presented him as something that he really is. Philadelphia got behind him, and that's Philadelphia. They're the hardest room to win.
Yes, but his biggest problem is that he's presented as something he's not, and he never will be.
Right.
The scripted promos are killing the guy, killing him.
It's ridiculous.
That being said, the delivery had much to be desired too.
Yeah, I
gotta imagine if anyone else froze like he did, that would be the end of his push. Remember when Cesaro cut a horrible promo and that was the last you heard about Cesaro? Like, I don't know. I don't know. The whole thing was just. I don't understand. What's the end goal? So Roman beats Cena and then what? Cena raises his hand and then what? Right back where we started.
Right.
Fucking deal.
Well,
deal. Here's the deal. Roman Reigns isn't the guy. That's okay. Not everybody can be Mike Trout. Not everybody could be Sam Darnold. Not everyone could be Tom Brady. Not everyone could be Aaron Rodgers. That's okay. He's a fucking great professional wrestler. And you're doing him a disservice by trying to shoehorn him into a role that he cannot do. And you're doing your company a disservice at the same time. Put the belt on him. Give him the belt for a year. Have him cut forward promos, and let's go on with our lives.
Right.
This isn't tough.
You know what the amazing thing is? Vince McMahon knows how to do this, and we saw it last year. Last year, Roman Reigns, I imagine, had to be tearing his hair out because Roman Reigns' strengths are he is really intense, he drives you into the match, he hits moves that make people hurt, he says very little on the microphone, he spears somebody, they fall down, they stay down, and that's how he gets over. And Vince McMahon knows that this works because he did it with Goldberg.
It took him 15 years. He screwed up Goldberg the first time, too. Are you excited? Are you excited for Roman Reigns to come back in 2032 and get a huge push?
Good God. I
talked about this with Chris last week about Asuka on the main roster and how the only thing Vince knows how to do is push monsters and build monsters. He wants Roman to be all things to all people. It's not going to happen. Some of it is his fault. Most of it's not.
Right.
That's where we are.
And I'll tell you something about, you mentioned Roman Reigns' delivery. I'm going to say right now that when it comes to saying lines that have been written for you, you can recite them or you can say them.
Exactly.
Roman Reigns recites them. And
it's. I thought. I don't know. I've never been on the Roman Reigns as the future train. Right. I love watching the guy work, but I love watching a lot of guys work. And I'm watching this promo, and I'm just saying, why are you putting your talent in a position to fail? Why do they constantly shove square pegs in round holes, Brother Duke?
Because Vince McMahon is the type of person who would rather play to a half-full crowd of people doing exactly what he wants than play to a full crowd and have to bend to what they say.
I mean,
just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And by the way, John Cena, of course, delivered a great promo, but can we get on him for some of the side remarks that clearly were not scripted?
Yeah, not on the side remarks, but we talk about the 90s. Him laughing and snickering straight out of the Kevin Nash school of no selling.
And not just that, but I mean, saying things like, hey, great job, your first good promo in 5 years. No, shut up! What the hell's wrong with you? What are you trying to accomplish when you say that?
I mean, when his opponent cuts the serious promo on him last week, like the Miz did 2 weeks ago, he's doing the Hall and Nash laughing and goofy smiles. You know, like, that doesn't help, man. You have to sell this, that this affects you. You know? Me mugging for the camera isn't helping, dude. You know better. Or maybe you don't. But someone knows better.
Yeah, and no, he does know better because we saw him doing the build-up to WrestleMania with The Miz. We saw him take all of those comments that The Miz threw at him and say, let me refute them. So we know he can do it.
Yeah, 2017 John. This John Cena run is other than Nikki Bella stuff. The post Nikki since he's been back since July, there's been a lot of weirdness going on this run.
Yeah,
I think it's very safe to say that he's got more than 1 foot out the door.
Probably, yeah. You know what? I'm here. Let's keep going. I know that we usually do I know you usually do 2 hours, but the hell with it. Let's do an overrun, shall we?
Let's go a little longer.
Yeah, why not? Because we still got a few more things to talk about.
Let's go.
SmackDown is going to get interesting in a week or two.
It is.
And not just because Randy Orton and Shinsuke Nakamura is the most unpredictable match in terms of how good it will be.
By the way, how excited are you? How excited is Randy Orton that he gets someone who can actually wrestle across the ring from him for the first time in 6 months?
How excited do you think he is that Vince McMahon is going to let him do his thing for the first time in 6 months?
Also true.
Randy Orton has been the most abused as far as booking. I see the comments from people on different places, saying Randy Orton needs to get out of the business or he doesn't have it anymore. Who the hell would have it against, when they have to sell for bugs on the mat?
Yeah. Yeah. God, that match. Oh, God. It's so terrible. That match. God, it's like 10:30 at night. I'm exhausted. I'm watching WrestleMania, and I get fucking crickets and maggots. Like, you know what the best part about that match was, and best is a loose word. If you're watching that match with someone else, you're embarrassed to be a wrestling fan.
Yes.
God, fuck you, Bray Wyatt.
No, fuck you, Vince McMahon. I guarantee you, Bray didn't want anything to do with it either.
Just stop. We make movies. Go away.
Go
away. Get out. Go away. Thanks. Leave the memories alone. Get the hell out of here. SmackDown. By the way, did you see Raw? Raw's gonna have a cage match.
Oh, Raw's gonna
have big dudes beating each other up, which always makes me happy.
They're gonna have some beef inside that cage.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I like how Big Show has been on the retirement tour for like 5 years, by the way. Every year we hear, this is Big Show's last year, and then every year he still has good matches.
Well, he varies so much. I mean, Big Show, when he gets fat and lazy, is probably the worst wrestler on the planet.
Oh, he's terrible. But when he cares, he's pretty great.
I know! It's insane! And by the way, if that cage match ends with the cage still standing, it'll be a missed opportunity.
Oh, I hope it ends with like an Irish whip into the cage and then it collapsing.
Yes.
Or something, yeah.
And the only reason it wouldn't is if you're afraid that the cage might actually swing into the crowd, which I totally get.
Which makes sense. So you do it on that makes sense. But the cage should implode or something,
Or do like Bobby Lashley did in 2007. Have somebody dive, take out a panel of the cage as they dive out of it. But
exactly.
Yeah. So this next week at WWE is going to be interesting. I really want to care more, but honestly, I have not watched the network since Jinder Mahal won the title because I consider it to be one of the biggest fuck yous from Vince McMahon ever. And what this means, by the way, is that I have not seen any of the first round matches in the Mae Young Classic.
Neither have I.
I'm pretty sure you have.
You would be wrong, my friend. It has been a hectic week over at the Curtain Jerker household. I am watching I am going to binge the shit out of the Mae Young on Monday. Monday afternoon and evening is when I'm watching the Mae. So I don't have thoughts on it yet. I know I'm very bad. I'm very, very bad.
Oh, well, I was hoping that you'd be able to help me out.
I work in logistics, as you may or may not know, and with the disaster in Texas, it's been all hands on deck. So
I get it. I totally get it.
I've been working for 13 hours this week, which I don't mind because A, I like my job, B, they pay me well, and C, I'd much rather be working to try. I don't mind at all trying to find people bottled water and batteries. Trying to find trucks to bring bottled water into a disaster area is like the one part of my job that makes me feel good about my job, to be honest. I like my job a lot, but there's not a lot of intrinsic rewards there, But like trying to find a truck to bring, Duracells to a Walmart in, Conroe, Texas, which is just north of Houston. I don't mind that part of my job.
God bless you for helping out there.
It's the least I can do.
Absolutely.
But the point is, and I'm not telling you that to make myself feel good. I'm telling you that
No,
I haven't been able to watch.
understand. The point
I haven't watched the Mae Young yet. Monday, I'm getting breakfast with my dad. We're going to talk about wrestling, and then because that's what we do, we talk about wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going back to my apartment. I'm ordering takeout, and I'm binge watching the Mae Young.
All right.
So I have no thoughts.
What I've gathered through osmosis on Twitter, by the way. The first thing I've gathered is that Jim Ross has lost his fastball.
Yeah. And Lita never had a fastball.
Lita is good. Lita was good at many things. Talking is not one of them.
No.
So she's trying. I imagine what the W wanted to do was have Lita there to establish a bridge from the history to the future, which is great. And they figured, oh, Jim Ross is such a great commentator. He'll walk her through it and make the whole thing work.
Not so fast, my friend.
Not this time.
Nope.
Other things I've gathered, Kairi Sane is the real deal.
Yeah.
Kaylee Ray is somebody that a lot of people are talking about as being pretty good. Piper Niven and Santana Garrett apparently had what I'm being told is one of the best matches, not the best match in the first round. And Marty Bell had no business being in the tournament. Those are some of the cliff notes that I have found.
That's about what I have, too. I wish I had more.
I will say, by the way, just as a humorous note, somebody who's been watching wrestling as long as I have, when I see a bunch of comments saying Piper Santana was so good, my first thought is, wait, when did they meet on Primetime Wrestling?
Yes. Yeah. Primetime Wrestling is the best.
Yes. And by the way, in all seriousness, I kind of wish there was a Roddy Piper versus Tito Santana match.
Yeah, I would enjoy that.
Yeah.
If for nothing else,
maybe in the Boston Garden at one point. I don't know.
Yeah, with the yellow chairs in the background.
Oh yeah. And by the way, uploading some of those Boston Garden shows.
Some of them are really bad. In fact, most of them are really. You could tell it's like the last Sunday of like a 13-day tour, and the guys are like tired of taking bumps.
Yeah.
Back then, guys toured for like 3 weeks in a row, and you could tell they're just like whatever. And they got it's a matinee in the Garden, and then like an evening show, a matinee at the Boston Garden, an evening show like Madison Square Garden. So they're just gonna show up, do their spots for 10 minutes, and by spots I mean like headlocks and bear hugs, and go home.
Right.
Some of those some of those Sunday matinee Boston Garden matches are just terrible.
Oh, it's not pretty to see wrestlers phone it in.
No, not at all, especially back then.
Yeah, but I've been told, by the way, that there is one in, I think, February or March of '86. Roddy Piper versus Bruno Sammartino in a steel cage. I've actually seen this match before it went on the network. It's really good. You have two guys who are good at what they do, and they're putting forth the effort.
Even
and Sammartino bumps Piper all over the place, and it's a lot of fun. So,
I always wonder that if you took like 1970 Bruno, like right in the middle of his prime, and you transported him to the 2017 wrestling scene, I always wonder what would happen. Like, would he'd still get over, because getting over is a universal thing, right? I mean, like that translates. But like, how would it work? Because he'd be a bottom tier in-ring wrestler through no fault of his own. That's just how people worked back then.
Right.
But he still has that physical charisma, and he would still get over, right? I'm not crazy to say that he'd still get over.
There's a lot of guys where I would love to take them from the territory days and see what would happen here. And honestly, someone like Hulk Hogan is at the top of my list. With how much the wrestling business has changed, I would kind of wonder, how would you handle a guy who is 6'8", 300 pounds, has charisma for days,
and the All-American babyface in 2017?
The All-American babyface, but then he gets in the ring and he's there.
Just there. There's a lot of guys from the territory days that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Like, can you picture like the Sheik in CZW?
I've actually
or like early career Terry Funk before he decided to be the bloodletter.
Oh yeah.
Or like Ray Stevens and like Evolve. Like it would just be great stuff.
Oh, I kind of wish that Ray Stevens had worked more than just the AWA. He deserves a lot more credit for.
Yeah, he does. Speaking of the AWA, like 1978, Nick Bockwinkel will be the biggest star in the business in 2017. I'm convinced of it. He'd be the biggest guy in the business.
I can buy that.
Well, I'm sorry.
I can buy that.
Yeah,
Nick Bockwinkel is who Kevin Owens wishes he was.
Only better in the ring and a much better look.
And he was one of the best talkers of the 70s, and he knew something about wrestling, which is you don't go to wrestling to think. And he made you think, and people hated it.
Here's how you know Nick Bockwinkel was one of my all-timers. Gimmick was a knockoff Nick Bockwinkel.
Yes, very much so.
In 2008, Chris Jericho, when he was doing his best work, was a straight-up rip-off of Nick Bockwinkel. So, yeah, late 70s, early 80s, Nick, like age 35-ish, would be the best guy in the business today.
One of my favorite what-ifs, because this is 90s week, I want to bring it to the 90s here.
Sure.
Think about this one. Remember how Harvey once said he was going to get somebody to destroy The Undertaker, and it turned out to be El Gigante, and everybody just sort of groaned?
Yep. I do, unfortunately.
All right. Imagine instead the Royal Rumble 93, The Undertaker has knocked a bunch of people out, Harvey Wippleman comes out, and Abdullah the Butcher is behind him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
speaking of old guys still getting it done, I think we've learned with Braun Strowman that if you took like 1981 Andre the Giant, he would be the biggest guy in the business. That there is something about the big guys. There is about wrestling fans in their lizard brains. As much as we love flippy do shit, we like watching big guys just beat the shit out of each other.
Absolutely. I mean, you said it. Your favorite WrestleMania match was 5 minutes long and was two big guys beating the shit out of each other.
Yes. This year. I thought you meant of all time. Oh, yeah, this year. Absolutely. It's my favorite match of the year. Like, when we do the Two Guys, One Sport year-end review for my ballot for the Observer, that's the best match of the year. But I was talking to the good brother Videns, and he was like, wrestling isn't objectivist. If your match of the year is your favorite match, it doesn't matter if it's, quote, the best match. It's your match of the year.
Yeah.
My match of the year is Goldberg-Lesnar. You know why that match kicks ass? For about 600 reasons. Reason number one is that the crowd hated Bill Goldberg at the beginning and loved him at the end.
Exactly.
Charisma gets over.
Yeah. I gotta agree with our good friend Videns.exe. By the way, if you ever want to find me again, I'm at CSS Duke Videns. I miss you and I love talking to you sometime. Slide me a DM if you want to. But wrestling is just fun when it is people doing what they do best. And what Goldberg and Lesnar do best is destroy. And when you get two destroyers against each other, it's not going to last long. That's just the way it is, and it shouldn't.
Nope. I don't want to watch Iron Man versus Captain America for an hour and a half.
No, you don't. You're okay watching the build up to it, but that final fight better be 10 minutes at most.
That's it.
So yeah, that's the thing about wrestling is you want to have the best. You want to have people do what they do best. You talk about which guys from the territories would do well here. The equation works both ways. Can you imagine Goldberg back in the territory days?
Oh yeah, on 3 month loops. Could you imagine Goldberg in like the late '80s Japan instead of Bruiser Brody?
Oh yes.
Just like Goldberg teaming with Stan Hansen. Yeah, or like teaming with Stan Hansen against like Misawa and Kawada or something. Can you imagine that?
Oh damn.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Wow.
Or a guy like Brock doing the territory loop.
Yes.
But
I guarantee you, if Brock Lesnar came out like 20 or so years ago, he and Hulk Hogan are main eventing an A loop, basically throughout all of '84 and '85.
That's it. Absolutely.
God bless Roddy Piper, but I think he would be doing the B show main events.
Yeah, exactly. He'd be holding on the fort with Tito Santana.
Yep. As far as other guys from the territories I'd love to see come forward, you know what would be interesting?
Sure.
Imagine, with all the talk about how, you need pacing and work rate, you mentioned it with your match of the week. Can you imagine a guy like Greg Valentine who understood how to work a long match in today's Raw, where main events tend to be 20 minutes?
How about the Blackbacks as a tag team? Bring both Mulligan and Lanza, and then talk about pacing, and talk about how heels should call matches, right?
Exactly.
Same concept. Like a lot of that stuff is rushed, and I don't miss all of it because we talked about the misogyny, but I do miss some of it, and a lot of that stuff being rushed makes me sad.
Yeah, it's no fun to see, that with how much TV there is, that the concept of the slow burn has kind of gone by the wayside. It's the same number of shows, but it's through a smaller time frame, which that's just the way it is. But in retrospect, I'll tell you, it makes for good viewing. You look at some of the shows from even 5-6 years ago, they've aged. They haven't aged badly on the network. You go dial up something like Money in the Bank 2011. That show's just as great as it was then.
Blessed to have been in the building for that, my friend.
You lucky man,
Blessed. Hashtag blessed. You know what the fun thing about that show is there were 4 4-star matches on that show. Both ladder matches kicked ass. The Orton Christian match was amazing, and the main event was like a religious experience. Just that card is unbelievable.
Yeah, and I remember talking about just all the intrigue leading up to that match, and what were they going to do? Because I don't know about you, but I actually did think that CM Punk's contract was expiring.
So did I.
So
I bought it. Yeah. I bought all of it.
So we're just going through the list of everything that could happen. After this is over, does CM Punk job on his way out? Does TNA back a Briggs truck up to him? Is John Cena going to vanquish him? Are they going to pull a fast one? I actually called, by the way, the Laurinaitis spot in that match from about 2 weeks ago. I said, they're going to do something to reference Montreal. The parallels are just too obvious.
Yeah. It was amazing being in the building for that. It's one of my favorite wrestling moments is actually not even that, is waking up the next day and my hands still hurt from clapping.
Wow.
Yeah, that I'll never forget that. The next Monday, because I wasn't at my current job, I was still bouncing around waiting tables and doing freelance work, and I didn't have work that Monday, and I was like, my hand still hurts. Oh yeah, because I spent 3 hours clapping.
Awesome. And I'll tell you my favorite experience.
Go for it, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, my favorite experience was Backlash 2000, which was in Washington D.C. And
right after WrestleMania.
Right after that WrestleMania. Yeah.
Okay.
And the main event is The Rock versus Triple H. And The Rock had teased that Steve Austin would be in his corner. We hadn't seen Steve Austin since he got hit by a car.
Yeah, because he had the bad neck, right?
Right.
He finally got the surgery.
Mm-hmm. Now, for the first match, they bring out Deborah as a special guest ring announcer. And I only bring that up because that was a signal in my head that Austin actually was in the building. They were teasing that he hadn't arrived. The kids next to me, during the main event, are saying, "Where's Austin? Why isn't he helping The Rock?" I'm just sitting here thinking, wait for it. And let me tell you something. When that glass broke, the sheer volume of the fans was deafening.
That's amazing.
And
they don't make crowds like they used to.
That match had everything you ever wanted. Had all the big players. It had Rock, Triple H, Austin, Shane McMahon. You had Earl Hebner coming out.
I enjoyed the Rock Triple H series of matches. The Iron Man match, we talked about it being long, was also pretty good. They had some hellacious matches. It's the show leading up to SummerSlam. A lot of fun stuff on Raw. It's good stuff. But
yeah. Go back to SummerSlam '98. Actually, they had a ladder match there that a lot of people saw.
And you could tell that was right when you're like, these two guys are it. These two guys are too big for this Intercontinental belt, both of them.
Right, exactly. You know what? We haven't even gotten to. I was bringing this up before the show. With all of this mainstream news, we haven't even gotten. We should pay Reverend Kane some love and talk about the Indies a little because, hey, it is Labor Day weekend. Do you know what that means out in California?
I do know what that means. It means that in a little hall in Reseda is Bola.
The Battle of LA. In fact, it's just started about 15 minutes ago.
That's it.
Listen to these first round matches, by the way.
Go
I've got Sermon on the Mat up. Reverend Kane, you do great work. God bless you. So listen to this set of first round matches. For those who aren't familiar, the Battle of Los Angeles is a 24-man, 3-night tournament. You have to win 3 singles matches to get to the final, and the final is a 3-way elimination match. So that means there are 12 first-round matches. Here they are. Brian Cage versus Desmond Xavier. You've seen Desmond Xavier in AAW.
Yep, he's one of the tag team champions.
Yep. Tell us about Desmond Xavier and what we can expect against Brian Cage.
We can expect a lot of big man, little man stuff. But Desmond Xavier, not only does he do the flippy stuff, but he's got a fun striking game. He kind of incorporates a little bit of like boxing style into it. He'll do that little straight jabs and stuff. But his bread and butter is the flippy stuff, which when you have Brian Cage as a base, that's always a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. He might get thrown to the 4th row.
It would be great.
Mm-hmm. We've got Marty Scurll taking on Flash Morgan Webster, which is honestly looking up and down probably the biggest mismatch of the first round, unfortunately.
Yeah, I imagine the villain's a defending champion. I imagine he's going to win this match.
Yes. We have Rey Fenix against Rey Horus. Rey Horus, is that Dragon Azteca in Lucha Underground?
I believe so. He's some Rey Fenix, by the way.
Yes.
You talk about a guy with a fountain. You talk about a guy with a fountain of charisma. He is pretty charismatic.
And by the way, we got to give him props, give him congratulations, because out in your neck of the woods in AAW, he just beat Sami Callihan for the title.
Yes. Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus. Our long national nightmare is over. By the way, my birthday weekend, October 14th and 15th, is a 2-night AAW, the Jim Lyman Memorial Tournament, which is a 12-man single elimination tournament, the same format as Bola. Excuse me, 16-man. So just straight up brackets.
Okay.
16 to 8, 4, and then 2. Always a lot of fun. The winner gets an AEW title shot. Chris Hero won it last year in one of his last hurrahs in the Indies.
Nice.
So cannot wait to go to that for my birthday weekend.
Right.
Friday, Saturday night. So we'll have to move the show, but whatever.
Yep. So, okay, there's 3 of the first round matches. We have Matt Sydal against Penta. That
cannot wait.
Right there.
Cannot wait. The great first round match.
Jonah Rock, a name I don't recognize, is getting sacrificed on the altar of Zack Sabre Jr.
Couldn't tell you anything about Jonah Rock, but I hope he knows how to submit without tapping out, because that's how Zack Sabre Jr. matches end.
Yep.
Here's one I am intrigued with, my friend. Flamita versus Ricochet.
Oh, yes. We know what Ricochet can do with Will Ospreay, and Flamita is very much in that mold.
Yes. Little should be just a PWG just spot fest.
Oh, yeah. And
did you see the main event of that night? Not a Bola match, but did you see the main event?
Beef Quash!
Jeff Cobb and Matt Riddle versus Donovan Dijak and Keith Lee. If this match is not at least 4.5 stars, I'm going to be bitterly disappointed.
There's just going to be so much hossing in that match.
That is what I'm expecting from these 4.
Yep. So that's tonight's show, and like I said, that's going on right now. Tomorrow they're going to have the rest of the first round. Here we go. Joey Janela, who's taking TK Cooper's place.
After his ankle fell apart, unfortunately. Get well soon, TK.
Yeah. But, I mean, if you're going to get a backup, Joey Janela's a really good backup to get.
Absolutely he is.
Donovan Dijak continues his farewell tour against Trevor Lee. Oh.
Have you seen the new heel Trevor Lee? I like the new heel Trevor Lee. He's got a little bit of viciousness that I'm here for.
Yes. And you know what? I saw Dijak in person against Jonathan Gresham, so I know he knows how to work the big little matches to be outstanding.
Yes.
This is going to be special. You got Jeff Cobb taking on Sami Callihan. I'm guessing Callahan's not one of your favorites.
I don't. Too much of him in my life. Too much. I'm tapping out on Sami Callihan. But Jeff Cobb and Sami Callihan had a little bit of an alliance going. I don't know if that only exists in the AEW world, though.
Right. Matt Riddle.
I like everything about Sami Callihan till the bell rings. You know, you always hear that phrase, things are going great till the bell rings.
Oh, yeah. I think that's the Undertaker's motto from 1994.
That's pretty much where I am with Sami Callihan.
Okay. Matt Riddle against Michael.
Preview match for the 2018 G1 Climax. Matt Riddle versus Big Mike Elgin.
Yeah, if this isn't part of the G1 in the future,
here's G1.
It's gotta be, and it is gonna be. You know, that's fun.
I buy Bola every year on DVD, and I'm definitely buying this one. Then we have Mark Haskins versus Travis Banks. Travis Banks doing some awesome work over in Progress.
Yep. And how about this for the last first round match?
Yeah. Keith Lee and Walter. Two vicious. Walter, a giant Austrian, who is just a vicious, vicious son of a bitch. And Keith Lee, as we know about him today, he is awesome.
Yes. And then non-tournament matches that night. We're going to have the leaders of the new school, Marty Scurll and Zack Sabre Jr. against Matt Seidel and Ricochet.
Spotfest City, baby. Good times. Good times had by all.
And speaking of Spotfest City, by the way, this is probably one of the best international clashes I can think of.
This is the match I am most excited for of all the matches so far.
Crazy. It's going to be all over the building. And the crowd's going to be going nuts. Flamita, Penta, and Phoenix against Kenny Omega and Matt and Nick.
Excited. I'm excited for this match is understating it. I cannot wait to see this match. It should be so great.
Oh my gosh, it's going to be something
The Bucks and Kenny PWG is just like a match made in heaven.
Yes. And then Sunday, they'll have the final, the rest of the tournament, which will be 6 quarterfinal matches, 3 semifinal matches, probably a breather in there to let everyone catch up, and then the 3-way dance to finish. That is the show for PWG every year.
And every year it's great. I have last year's Bola on DVD, and it is worth the watch, my friend.
All right. So
the important time, the main event.
Who do you have in this tournament? Who do you think is going to be the winner?
Let's pull it up. I think Penta's winning it. I don't know why, but I do.
Interesting. If I had to pick someone,
I think Penta. I think Penta as a dark horse to come through.
You know who I think should do it? I'd like to see Jeff Cobb win it, just because Jeff Cobb, is kind of going into the whole Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar mold, being a big guy who
is gaining weight like Samoa Joe. That's for sure.
Unfortunately, that's that Pacific Islander genetics.
Yep. Sooner or later you cannot run your destiny. You know what I mean?
Right, but he, as you've said, he's a great hot tag.
He's an awesome hot tag. I love the guy a lot too.
Which means he knows how to be very quick, be very intense, get his stuff done, get it out of the way. And by the way, the PWG champion right now, our good friend Sexy Chuck Taylor. Can you imagine what sort of stuff he would do when when he's in there ready to defend the title, and here comes 320 pounds of pissed off Pacific Islander?
Yep, who can throw you around like it's nothing.
And Taylor is really good at selling too.
He is.
So that match, I would love to see that match be the outcome from Bola. Jeff Cobb take that Bola win, go into a title match, because I'm getting Sean Vader vibes from it.
Oh, that's high praise.
Yeah.
High praise indeed, my friend. I think Penta's my dark horse. I can see Cobb. I can see Riddle if he keeps his head on straight. I can even see Keith Lee, but I think Penta's going to be my official dark horse pick.
All right, that's cool. And that's what makes this so much fun is we've got
but eight realistic options. Like if I told you Zack Sabre Jr. won, you wouldn't bat an eye, right? If I told you,
if we said that Brian Cage won, we'd all go.
You're like, okay, yeah. There's about 8 or 9 realistic options here.
Yeah.
So now for the important parts, Brother Duke.
Yes.
Who are your Final 4 in college football?
Oh yeah, all right.
Duke and I are both college football fans. It starts in earnest tomorrow. So I will be going to Northwestern Nevada, by the way. I don't know if I told you, at 2:30.
Oh yeah. You kind of mentioned that in passing. Of course, my boys. We have to apologize for people in the rest of the country. We are both from ACC schools. I'm from Duke. He's from Florida State. And so we're going to be doing a lot. So that's sort of our wheelhouse right now.
That's it. But we're going to do a real quick preview.
All right. First thing you need to know is that a lot of the people who were good last year are still good this year.
Yep.
And that we have a couple of huge marquee matchups tomorrow. Michigan and Florida in a matchup that our sister side every day should be Saturday is going to be just sort of drooling over.
Yes. In the battle of we don't know who the quarterback is.
Yes. And the one the big one, Florida State and Alabama.
I will be at a bar hammered by kickoff. I cannot wait. My favorite neighborhood bar has pizza specials, regular pizza for all y'all pizza snobs over on the East Coast. Has pizza specials and $3 Coronas, and much like Vin Diesel in Fast and the Furious, I will be drinking lots of Coronas, and it's going to be great. Cannot wait.
Oh my gosh. You got BYU and LSU facing off now in New Orleans instead of Houston, but
that's okay
for obvious reasons. You've got we're already off to a good start. How much of the Ohio State-Indiana game did you get to see? Any of it?
First 3 quarters until Ohio State turned the gas on. Indiana came to play. They were competitive. And then Ohio State went to the half and got yelled at, I'm presuming, and then came out and dominated.
Yeah,
Ohio State looked like shit and put up 42 points.
And by the way, college football and wrestling really do dovetail together. And
absolutely.
This was like watching, when the big heel, like a Midnight Express would come out and they'd have a match against some no-name team, and
the no-name team would take it to them.
He would get in their offense, and you just knew the Midnight Express, once they woke up, would take over. But it was fun while it lasted.
Exactly. Who are your final 4 for the playoff?
All right, my
and then we'll get out of here.
I'm going to go with, in no particular order, by the way.
Sure.
I'm going to go with Oklahoma.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Southern Cal.
Okay.
I'm going to say Alabama, because Alabama's always in it.
Okay.
And I will say Michigan. And I think the ACC, Florida State and Clemson, are going to eat themselves alive in Louisville, and I think they're going to be the odd conference out this time around.
We're close. We're very close. You ready?
All right.
Bama, Southern Cal, Penn State, Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State, wow.
Oklahoma State, I think, is going to win the Big 12 with one loss. Their one loss, by the way, you heard it here first, Kansas State.
Interesting, I can see
Old
that.
Man Snyder's got a little something brewing up there. They got a good, young, hungry defense. And if there's one thing Old Man Bill Snyder likes, it's good, young, hungry defenses.
Absolutely.
I think their one loss is to Kansas State.
That, I can see that. And now, let's talk about our team, since neither of us picked our teams to be.
No, unfortunately not.
I see the pessimism of Ed Sims has rubbed off on you.
I know. Well, here's the problem. I think Florida State's got a big problem tomorrow night against Alabama, and I think they have one more loss in them, which when you look at their schedule, they go to Clemson, they play Louisville, they play your guys out of the coast, they play Miami, they play Florida. I think they slip up one more time, probably NC State, because NC State exists just to piss me off. NC State, and now that I have Mike fucking Glennon on my professional team, I get pissed off by NC State even more. Mike Glennon.
I feel sorry for you. You've got to choose between an NC State player and a North Carolina player at quarterback. That's a recipe for disaster.
God hates me.
I know.
And one of my 5 favorite Knowles of all time is a Minnesota Viking and Dalvin Cook.
Oh well.
Yeah, I think Florida State finishes 10-2, and I think 11-2. They win the conference, but it's not enough to get them in. Because even though the committee always says they like quality losses, they don't actually like quality losses.
No, they like very few quality losses.
They like you beating up on cupcakes. So.
I think at this point, the big deal is that the committee right now is basically it's a cartel. It's a con act.
Yes. College football is much like wrestling in that we hate it and love it at the same time, and the fandom is incredibly irrational.
Yeah. Oh God, is the fandom irrational? We were talking about this earlier. For those of you who who get the SEC network or who get ESPN, take time out and listen to the Paul Feinbaum show one time.
Yeah, it's like the worst wrestling podcast on steroids.
Paul Feinbaum is a college football analyst who runs a radio show out of Birmingham, Alabama. And that's important because it means he's right between the Alabama fans and the Auburn fans. And every single fan is completely insane.
They're all nuts.
It's wonderful.
It's the best. It's the best, but they're all crazy.
Yeah.
Just like us. The best and crazy.
There you go. There you go. The other question I wanted to ask you, and this is one we talked about beforehand and said this is wide open. For those who don't know, part of college football is that they have 6 bowl games that are the big deal, that they invite all the big teams to. But one of those 12 spots has to go to a team that is not inside the 5 big conferences that we mentioned. And Notre Dame doesn't count. So who's going to be that small school that gets their jackpot?
Memphis. Riley Ferguson, the quarterback of the Memphis Tigers, I think is enough to get it done.
I like the conference. I've got a different pick. I love what Temple did last year.
Okay.
I love the continuity they have. I think that they are, they opened with Notre Dame to make a statement at home.
You talk about good young defenses. There's something brewing on that Temple front 7.
Oh, is there ever? You've seen the footage, by the way, of Temple only rushing 2 people against Penn State and still getting the sack, right?
Yeah, that's they confuse the shit out of you with coverage sacks all night. It's beautiful.
It is. I think Temple is. I think Temple's going to be the team that does it. We both agree it's going to be from the American Athletics.
Yes.
I think they're the strongest of the
Yes.
other conferences. But you look up and down the line. There's a lot of good football being played at the second-tier level. You got San Diego State and Boise State out in the Mountain West. Western Michigan made that great run last year on the MAC. Sunbelt is always fun for a train wreck. Conference USA, every once in a while you'll get a team like a Marshall or Western Kentucky that just, starts building. There's a lot of great football out there, and that's why we love it.
That's it.
All right, folks. I think we've run out of topics to talk about, so let's get to the obligatory paying the bills and start talking about other people. Friday, of course, podcast day for Cage Side Seat alumni. You start with Shooting the Breeze with Taker's Minion and Mr. Dr. Senju in the morning. Mid-afternoon, you've got Dizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling with Fitzpatrick and Don Sal Cosmano. Then you come back to us, well, to you anyway, I'm not always there, with Brother Chris, who will be back next week. We, of course, have Rudo Radio and Not Your Demographic, officially from Cage Side Seats. Also want to give some love to people who help with Nova Pro. People like Squared Circle Sound Off, run by Sean Neutron on WLWstudios.com, or the Big Gold Belt Podcast is another one. If you get a chance, listen to Lady J on Face Like Feministas. She's probably she's just a great person, great, very talented, knowledgeable person, and you'll learn a lot from her. There's a lot of great podcasts out there that are not run by the big guys. This is just a sample of them. Is there anyone I'm forgetting?
Off the top of my head, I don't think you are. You talked about Don Sal, Taker's Minion. You talked about Face Lock Feministas. No, I don't think you are forgetting anybody. By the way, wanted to say, speaking of Don Sal, starts college next week. Best of luck, my friend. Well, continues college. He's transferring from junior college to a 4-year university. Best of luck, Don Sal, man. It's nothing better than college, man. And enjoy every minute of it. Because you'll wake up one morning and be a wage slave, just like the rest of us, and you're gonna be like, man, I wish I could sleep in.
One last thing, I want to give a shout out to Nova Pro's ring announcer Brian Hughes, who's been very public about the fact that he is going on a new medical regimen for various things going on with him. We give him all the love and support. He's at Brian is not funny, but really he is a great guy. He talked about how he's been facing dread, been facing a lot of self-doubt, and just send him some love. Hope that he makes things better. So that's it for this extra long show on this extra long weekend. As I like to say, support your local indie. They are the lifeblood, and we're out of time. We'll try to do better next time.
We will We will see you next Friday. As always, thank you for listening. Thank you for starting your weekend with Brother Duke and I. For Duke, I'm George. For Duke's mustache, don't work yourself into a shoot. Good night, everybody.
See ya.